Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, entertainment, and all sorts of good stuff. And you can't talk about all sorts of good stuff without the master of fun and wonder, the man who sprinkles his joy all over the people, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing?
Well, John, I just cut a deal with the president of Ukraine to finance my latest project.
Fantastic.
I'm very excited about that.
Well done to take advantage of the current situation.
I certainly am.
And of course, also joining us right now is the one and the only, the wonderful Miss Chris Carr. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel like a Tim Burton character today. I feel like a sandworm, and I'm into it.
You are into it. And listen, guys, we have a whole bunch of stuff that we do need to talk about here today. But before we get to a lot of that stuff, I wasn't planning on this, but I just remembered I should tell you guys about this. Last night, I went to a screening of this little animated film that, quite frankly, I did not have a lot of interest in. And that's that new animated film, Abominable. And it is what it is, but I figured I should go, so I went. And you know what? I'm just going to let you guys know this. It's a charming little movie. It's a nice little movie. Now, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, it's not Coco. It's not amongst, it's not a Pixar film per se, but it is a sweet, charming, heart-filled, funny, enjoyable little film. It's a little cheesy. I mean, they're not master filmmakers who made this film, but it's a movie that's got some heart and laughs and smiles, and you feel good. I walked out of the movie theater last night, having watched this stupid little movie, feeling good. So there you have it. So I'm telling you, if you've seen the trailers, if you've had any interest in seeing this movie and you weren't quite sure whether or not to pull the trigger on it and go, I'd say go, because I enjoyed myself, and I think you will too. And I'll tell you what, I was telling Rob this before the show started. There were a bunch of kids in this preview screening last night. The kids loved it. I mean, they were losing their minds, so that was great. So if you get a chance to go see that, I would recommend you go see Abominable. I had a good time. I think most people will too. Again, it's no Pixar film per se, but it's a nice little film, and I think you might like it. All right. With that down, let's talk about a couple things off the top here before we get into our main topics of the day. Now, yesterday, we all know that one of the most highly anticipated video games coming out is The Last of Us 2. Now, that's something that's got a lot of people excited. The first one following up on, of course, the adventures of Logan and Joel and Ellie, as they move on and we move into the sequel of it, and the trailer for this little thing dropped yesterday. Now, I don't think it's incorrect to say that I think the first trailer for Last of Us 2 came out in 1983. At least that's what it feels like. They dropped the first trailer of The Last of Us 2 it's got to be over a year ago, or at least close to a year ago. So imagine my surprise when I saw a new trailer drop and still said it's still 5 months away. This thing's coming out in February of 2020. But still, watch the trailer yesterday. Oh my God. It is one of the best trailers for a video game that I've ever seen. There's story, there's characters. You get to see, take note, El Camino. It's a trailer that actually kind of tells you what the game's about. Anyway, I won't relaunch that entire debate. But you got character development, and you had a heroic entrance by Joel near the end of the thing that was just damn picture perfect. Now, look, everybody knows I'm not the biggest video gamer in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I watched this trailer, guys, and I really enjoyed it. Now, Chris, going over to you, I know when I mentioned to you, hey, there's a new trailer for Last of Us 2, you just about jumped out of your skin.
Yeah.
Like you grabbed your laptop so fast. Anyway, you had a chance to watch. I know you loved the first game. What did you think about the trailer? Did it live up to the hype for you?
Absolutely. I had to go double check too, because I was watching the trailer and I just thought, this sounds like everything Kotaku predicted 5 years ago. They're like, hey, there shouldn't be a Last of Us sequel. But if there is, maybe we do it this way. It looks fantastic. I am so freaking pumped for this game. We would play it at my house with all the lights off. And then Logan, because he's a big baby, would freak out because scary things will really, really get to him. Oh, yeah, the noise.
What a great sound.
It's so
what a
good.
great sound that is. It's that happens and I'm like, oh my gosh, that has become amongst one of the great horror element sounds. I'm not saying it's on the same level as the Jaws. Bum.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but it's in that league. You know what I mean?
It's pretty iconic.
The lights, it goes dark, screen goes dark, and you hear. I'm like, oh my God, just that elicits some really creepy feelings.
If I do that, or if I make the grudge girl noise around my house, man, Logan won't talk to me for days.
Rob,
Great.
You had a chance to sit down and watch it. What did you think about it?
Well, I remember being struck when I played the first Uncharted, that it was the first time that I was no longer just playing a game. I was watching a story unfold. I was just as the cutscenes and the voice acting, actually the motion capture work. Last of Us, the first one, was that was the time when I'm like, okay, I'm just as involved, even though there's gameplay, as I am watching a film. And we're watching the evolution of storytelling here, and there's a reason why younger audiences are not growing up as enamored of movies as we did, because when you're given something like The Last of Us, and now obviously with The Last of Us 2, it's just as immersive as any kind of movie, and you get to play. So you're getting these are no longer simply games. I mean, you're watching stories unfold. I mean, look at this. First of all, look at the graphics in this, and look at the way the characters look. You're getting this.
It looks breathtaking. Looks great.
It's breathtaking. The animation. It's. I mean, I think about the Final Fantasy movie. Remember the Final Fantasy movie when it came out? Everyone's like, "Oh my God, everyone's so photorealistic." And you look at it now, and you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
You look at this trailer with the new Unreal engines and the way they can generate backgrounds and the way the character. I mean, you're looking at people, you know, and it's unbelievable. It makes me want to just abandon any movie aspirations I still have and go work in games, because this thing is just. This trailer was just amazing.
Yeah, it was well done, and it certainly, look, we say about movie trailers, the goal of a movie trailer is to take your enthusiasm wherever it is, no matter if it's high or low, and bump it up a couple of notches. I think it's safe to say that for people looking forward to The Last of Us 2, this promo spot did that. I think it amped up the excitement for it. Question is, guys, what did you think about it? Did you even play the original game? Did you? And have you been looking forward to the sequel? If so, what do you think about this little spot they put out? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's talk about one other thing off the top, and that is this. You know, the last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember how long ago it was now, that little Jurassic World Battle at Big Rock, I think it was called, the short came out, which we all looked at and said, that was probably the most expensive, well-produced short film ever. But we all kind of said, we are clearly in agreement this is an ad. Like, this short film, not to take anything away from it, but it's an ad. Clearly, they are setting up the next Jurassic World movie. Well, according to Deadline, that's exactly what they were doing. And not only that, but it's now been announced that on top of Colin Trevorrow, who did the short film, he is coming back to direct the next Jurassic World movie. Of course, J.A. Bayona took over for the second one. Colin did the first. He's coming back to do the third one as well. And now, look who else is coming back. According to Deadline, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and Laura Dern are all coming back. And it ain't going to be, according to the reports now, it ain't going to be just cameos. They're coming back to join Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and they are going to star in the next Jurassic World. And of course, as we saw from the short film, this is now moving from the aisle into the real world. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is a fantastic idea. It brings it back full circle. I liken this unto what they did with Star Wars in The Force Awakens, bringing back in Han, bringing back in Luke, bringing back in Leia, even though Luke was only in there for a second. But this kind of feels like that, and now they're bringing the whole Jurassic story full circle. Now, I'm not saying that this movie's going to be any good. I don't know if that's the case or not, guys, but I was certainly excited when I read this. I think it's a terrific idea, and I can't wait to see these three back on screen together again. And look, I'm actually somebody that I really liked Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I really liked it. I really enjoyed Jurassic World. Obviously nothing is as good as the original Jurassic Park film, granted, but I've really liked these films. And so I like the short. I'm excited these guys are coming back. Rob, you hear about this. What do you think?
Well, who's not? First of all, the characters in the original Jurassic Park, all three of those characters were great characters. I mean, I love those characters, and who doesn't love Ian Malcolm? How many memes have been done off Jeff Goldblum's character from the original Jurassic Park? But what I find really interesting is that their skill sets, paleontologists who are now having to deal with the reality of dinosaurs that have escaped into the wild, and Ian Malcolm, Dr. Ian Malcolm
That's a different movie altogether.
As a chaos theorist. Yeah, they have to conjure Gandalf to put this cork back in the bottle. I think it's great, and I think they can really elevate this. I mean, I love the idea that mankind is faced with a potentially slow-moving extinction event, with dinosaurs once again reestablishing dominance on the planet. And who better to go on that ride with, watching the end of man, than our three stalwart characters from the original Jurassic Park? They belong here. I can't wait. And it is the equivalent of bringing Han and Leia and Luke back in the new Star Wars trilogy.
And we know we've seen each of them pop up in the Jurassic World films after the original, but nothing like that. This is going to be pretty special. Chris, you had a chance to hear about this. Does this excite you at all, or to you, does this really not mean much?
John, it's like people have been reading my diary. I get new Last of Us. I get more Dr. Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum is my boyfriend. You all know this. I'm very in love with him. And to have Laura Dern back in there, who's so amazing and has been just crushing it on Big Little Lies, and to bring Sam Neill in, I am so stoked about this. I think it can only make it better. Yeah. I wasn't completely enamored with Fallen Kingdom, so I think this has a lot of potential to really revive and put some life back into these movies. Because the last one, I kind of was just like, doesn't do it for me.
John, I thought though that script leak that has Sam Neill and Laura Dern's son coming back and killing Sam Neill in the end of the movie was a little sort
that was a lot.
On this weird, very thin bridge with no handrails.
Yeah, well, it was it was a rope bridge over the chasm with the T-Rex right below.
Got it.
And he pushes him off the bridge, and the dinosaurs eat him.
Man's right in dino poop.
I think there might be some credibility to that. The question here is, guys, what do you think about this news? I think it's very exciting. Are you somebody who really loves this franchise and this just hypes your excitement even more? Are you one of the people who maybe the last couple of films didn't really do it for you and you're off the Jurassic train? What do you guys think about this news? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on now to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit. Guys, for the love of God, keep it to 90 words or less, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that said, Chris, what is our first main topic today?
This is from Alex Hampton. Hey, John. With the recent news that Jeffrey Wright is cast as Commissioner Gordon, what happens to J.K. Simmons? I know they're rebooting the DCEU, but I thought J.K. Simmons still had a couple of films left on his contract. Thanks for taking my question. So what does happen to JK?
Yeah, that's one of the big questions a lot of people have been asking ever since they released the marvelous news that Jeffrey Wright was going to be playing Commissioner Gordon. Now, don't get me wrong. I would have been completely all for J.K. Simmons continuing to play Commissioner Gordon. But, that launched into the question, well, does that now automatically mean that the new Batman is outside of the DCEU and all that kind of stuff? We had those discussions. But it has brought up the question with some people like, wait a minute, time out. We know, because when they signed JK, they talked about it. He signed a multi-film deal. He signed a deal to play Commissioner Gordon in multiple films. How then, at this point, can they go out and get somebody else? Does that then automatically mean that we're still going to get more of this Batman? Like the Ben Affleck Batman just not being played by Ben Affleck in the DCU with J.K. Simmons? Okay, so this comes up every once in a while. And here's the basic underlying principle of it. When a movie studio and an actor sign a deal for an actor to be in a movie or series of movies, it is a little bit one-sided in this. If Marvel were to come to me and say, John, we need you to be the new Iron Man. We try to get Robert Downey Jr. back, but quite frankly, we think you have far more good looks, charm, and charisma to bring to the role. We really need to take Iron Man up a notch. Clearly, Campea is the guy to do it. This is clearly based in a real-life situation. So they come to me and say, we'd like to sign you to a deal. I'm like, okay. I sign a 5-picture deal. We do the first Iron Man Reborn movie with me playing Iron Man, Tony Stark.
I kind of want to see that.
So we make the first movie. Marvel quickly realizes, oh my God, we made a horrible mistake in getting this campy guy to do it. A horrible mistake. Are they obligated to me? I have a 5-picture deal to make 4 more Iron Man movies with me? No. See, I am obligated that if they want me in 4 more movies, I'm obligated. I have to come back and appear unless they let me out of my contract. I got to come back and be in them. That's the deal. But they are not obligated to have me. That's the key here. Just because they signed him to a 5-film deal doesn't mean they are obligated to make 5 films with him. It just means that if they decide to make 5 films, he's got to come back and be in them if they want him. Now, this goes back to something like Terrence Howard with the Iron Man situation. See, Terrence Howard, I believe, had a 3-film deal to play Rhodey. I believe that was the original deal. They wanted to restructure, whatever. They moved on from him. They went to Don Cheadle. Now, there was other drama involved as well, but the basic principle is there. He's under obligation to come back and be in their films if they want him, but they're totally free to either not make any more films or to move on and use somebody else in the role. That's the basis of it. So just because J.K. Simmons did have a multiple film deal, that does not automatically mean now that they have to make more movies with him in it in the role of Commissioner Gordon. I know that feels a little bit unfair, but that is the nature of 95% of those contracts. Rob, what am I missing there in this whole scenario when it comes to something like this? What would you add to that?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly the case. Now, remember, every contract that they make for a movie is new. A movie is every single movie that gets made is a business unto itself. You form your own corporation, whether it's an LLC. Every movie is like a brand new business starting from scratch. So they, just like you said, they can basically do anything that they want. They're not under any obligation. The new company that is formed basically has to have contracts with everyone else. Now, if you have signed a contract to be in the studio's movie, you've signed a contract with the studio to appear in whatever movies they're making. But each film is a new entity unto itself, really. And I think that the John Campea Iron Man movie cannot come soon enough. The more I think about it. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, first of all, J.K. Simmons has clearly moved back to New York. He took his old job as head of the Daily Bugle. Or maybe he's an online blogger now. Who knows? But the Batman movie that they're making, this, by the way, doesn't mean that they can't make another Justice League movie that's in a Justice League movie continuity. That J.K. Simmons could be Commissioner Gordon in if they had a new Batman. Who knows?
There's still a lot of possibilities here, but yeah, so basically we often hear about actors who had multiple film deals. Why didn't it get, well, it's because it really does favor the studios. It does obligate the actors to come back to be in the role the studios want it. It does not obligate the studios to make those movies or even to bring them back if they don't want to do that, and thus they move on. What do you guys think about that whole situation? Would you have liked to have seen JK carry on? I love JK, so it would have been pretty cool too. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This is from Alton Want. Hey, John, I was wondering, movie fans are now complaining that there are too many remakes and not enough original movies. But a lot of people don't watch original movies. Booksmart made $26 million, The Goldfinch $4 million, The Peanut Butter Falcon $15 million. But movie remakes such as Lion King are billion-dollar movies, and studios are not making a big profit with these movies. Can we complain that studios are not making original movies if we don't want them? Or watch them? Excuse me. Well, either or. Do we want them? Do we want to watch them? How do we feel about remakes and originals?
Guys, I'll tell you what. This has traditionally been one of the most frustrating topics to me. It's inevitable. Whenever they say, hey, they're going to redo, for instance, the Battlestar Galactica thing we talked about recently, even though that's a television series and not a movie. They're doing, everybody says, oh, everybody who wants to sound like there are tours and say, oh, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. All they do is this. And I constantly come back to the fact that more original film is made today than in any other time in Hollywood history. Now, it's also true that more films are being produced overall in the worldwide global market than in any other time in history as well. And there are more remakes and more sequels being done in any time in Hollywood history as well. But the same is true of original films. And whenever this comes up, I always go, okay, let's just go over to the release schedule. And we start to go down the release schedule. I'm like, original film, remake. Original film, sequel. Original film, sequel. Original film, remake. I mean, the amount of original films far outweighs the non-original films. But that doesn't stop people from going, oh, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. Nobody makes original films anymore. Shut up. Yes, they do. And we, as film fans, look, and I'm counting you, I'm counting me, I'm counting everybody in this room, at one level or another, in our film fandom, we can be pretty hypocritical. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is, while we moan and lament that they don't make original films, the fact of the matter is they do, and the second fact is we don't go see them. And then we'll cry and complain, and this is what we as film fans do, and I'm guilty of this, you're guilty of this. All of us as film fans are guilty of this to one degree or another. So let's just own it together here. And just for example, and I'm really glad they brought that up in the message, because let's just look at this year. These were just off the top of my head, okay? When I was rushing to get a list together. Midsommar. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, but a lot of people love this movie. It is oozingly original. It's very different. Made $36 million. I mean, which is nice for it, but in a world where film fans are going, why doesn't Hollywood make original films anymore? Midsommar comes out, completely original, different, all that kind of stuff. $36 million. Peanut Butter Falcon, which is the one film on this list I am myself guilty of not seeing. I still haven't gotten around to watching Peanut Butter Falcon, so this is me on this one. But Peanut Butter Falcon, everybody's raving about this film. $16.7 million. Fighting with My Family, a movie I will admit I did not think was good. It's about a wrestling girl and blah, blah, who cares? This was one of the most charming movies of the year. It was really good. $39 million. Booksmart, which to me is still, as of right now, very close with The Farewell, but to me right now, Booksmart for me is still my number one film of the year. It's incredibly good. Olivia Wilde knocked it out of the park in her first directorial debut. $22.6 million. The Farewell. There's a hell of a lot of people that consider this to be the best film of the year. I think it ranks right up there. It's a magnificent movie, magnificent story, $17.3 million. Hotel Mumbai, which it took me a while to get around to finally watching. Seeing the would-have-been Batman running around there with Dev Patel playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. $9.6 million. Movie's brilliant. I finally got around to watching Blinded by the Light. I was a little bit late to the party on that one. Brilliant. Wonderful film. $11.7 million. And then we come to Ready or Not, which is just a fun, creative, the things they do in the movie. It's an all thriller, no filler from start to finish. This movie starts with a bang, ends with a bang. Totally enjoyable, totally fun. By the way, these are not opening weekend numbers, ladies and gentlemen. These aren't even just domestic numbers. These are worldwide total numbers, $44.4 million. Now, look, when we're looking at numbers like these, we can look at each individual film and go, well, hey, for The Farewell, which was made for fairly cheap, that's not a bad result. We can look at Blinded by the Light and say, well, that's still not what they were looking for. We can look at something Ready or Not and say, hey, for the type of movie Ready or Not was, that's not bad. And we can say all of that. But what we cannot ignore is in an environment where we as film fans, and again, I'm including all of us, including this guy, as film fans, we moan and bitch and complain about, oh, there's no original films in Hollywood. The reality is that we don't want to admit is this. Yes, there is. There's lots of original film in Hollywood. There's lots of good original film in Hollywood. The problem is those of us when we look in the mirror. We don't go to support it. You know, we don't go to support it. Now, I'm all for supporting Lion King and Aladdin and the 24th Marvel MCU movie, and the 9th DCEU movie, and the whatever. I'm all for supporting those. You know, I'm there with bells on. And I'm okay if those, if original films aren't your cup of tea. That's fine too. I'm just saying what we should not do is, number one, make the false statement that Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. They make more original films today than any other time in history. But then secondly, be hypocritical about it and complain that there's no original films when we ourselves do not go out and support those original films. And Rob, this became a really big thing to me a couple of years ago when Nice Guys came out with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. That movie is fan-effing-tastic. That movie's so good, and nobody went to go see it. It was completely original. It was crisp. It was well-paced. Fabulous. Nobody went to go see it. So you got to forgive me, guys, whenever I read a comment or something about saying, oh, Hollywood doesn't know how to do anything original anymore. You got to forgive me if I get a little bit of a nervous twitch when I hear that, because it bugs the hell out of me, because number one, it's not true. And then number two, even if it was true, it's incredibly hypocritical of us. Anyway, Rob, listen, as being in movie circles, as being somebody who has produced your own original film, as somebody who's been, you've got to hear this one a lot too, don't you?
Well, yeah. And look, it all comes down, I hate to say it, but it all comes down to economics. I always say it ain't show friends, it's show business. But there's a lot of people out there that are trying to make movies like all the ones on the list that you just showed. And the question is, who's going to go see them? Because at the end of the day, movies are a product. We love movies, but when you're thinking you're going to investors, like in my case, I go to investors and go, look, I want you to give me $4 million, $2 to $4 million. That's kind of the world I live in. And you have to be able to say how you're going to return their money. People want to get their money back plus 30% within a reasonable amount of time. Now, with the amount of money that movies cost and how much they now cost to market, the reality is there's a very few movies now that are guaranteed of making a lot of money at the box office. Like you pointed out, these movies, you've talked about Booksmart, how wonderful that movie is. The Farewell. These are heartwarming movies that most audiences would probably love. But we don't live in a world where people want to see movies like that anymore. Not en masse. People are surprised that the Downton Abbey movie made $33 million, and everyone's going, ooh, the audience for that was people 55 and older. The fact is that the movie-going audience has completely changed, and movies are now, these big grossing movies, are spectacles. That's why Disney, I do not understand why Disney ever gets made fun of, because what they're doing, their business model, whether it's Lion King, whether it's Frozen, they are producing exactly what they're supposed to be producing. Big movies for big audiences, and they are delivering usually, I would say, 95% of the time. Whereas, like you pointed out, John, there are wonderful movies in multiplexes all of the time that nobody knows about and nobody is going to see. And most importantly, people don't want to see those movies. And that's the sad part. We have to start broadening our horizons. And as film fans, I was always surprised, especially even when I went to film school, that I would watch these older movies that I would be told were classics that I hadn't yet got around to seeing. And when I finally saw them, what amazed me about them was that they were all wonderful. The top 100 list of the AFI's best films ever made. Yeah. You start going through that list, and it doesn't matter if your favorite movies are Star Wars or the MCU. If you love movies and you start watching that list, every one of them is like a magical, it's like the Ark of the Covenant. You're opening it up and the power of God will come out and shine on you. It's amazing. And I would say that the only thing I would say to any film fan or people that are watching this show, move out of your lane and go see things that you might not normally be interested in seeing, just to see what's out there. And you might find that there's a lot of wonderful work being done that you're just missing out on. And I'm telling you, it'll enrich your life.
It's funny to me though that all these films are there. They're there. And people, it's like going into a grocery store and somebody going, oh, why doesn't anybody make 7-grain bread? Actually, 7-grain bread is right down aisle number 4, right over there. Why doesn't anybody make 7-grain bread? It's right over there if you want to go see it. And it's over. Now, I've heard this argument, Rob, and I reject this. I've had people say to me, well, John, it's not that people want original films. They want original blockbusters.
Right.
So basically, you want an original film that's just like all those other big blockbusters, just with a different title. I mean, we want original films. There's original film there, and that's the part that frustrates me. Anyway, guys, let me ask you. What do you think about all that? Are you one of the people, and let's admit, we've all done it, but are you one of those people who will often go, Hollywood doesn't know how to make anything creative and original anymore, when clearly they do? Are you one of the people who you get a little bit of a nervous twitch like I do whenever I hear people say that? What's your thoughts on all this? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on now to main topic number 3. Chris, what is our third main topic today?
This is from Josh Bing. Hey, John and crew. Love watching the show. I saw on Twitter Michael Rosenbaum said he was contacted by Crisis, but turned it down due to no script, not knowing when he'd shoot, no idea what he'd be doing, basically no money. He said WB wanted an immediate answer, so he kindly passed. I agree 100% with him, but this makes me wonder if Crisis will feature many cameos from a lot of big announced names and no real substantial roles. What do you make of this interaction? How do you feel about these people being brought on without any knowledge of what the Crisis arc is going to be like?
You know, it's funny because, you know, when they announced that Tom Welling was going to come back and reprise his role as Clark Kent, and then they immediately followed that up with Erica Durance was coming, I said, you know what? I think it's only a matter of time till we hear Michael Rosenbaum is coming back too. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to come back. And sure enough, they did contact him. Now, for those of you wondering, well, wait a minute, what's this person talking about in the email? What are they saying? Here's exactly what Michael Rosenbaum was asked about it, about whether or not he would come back and play Lex again. And he said the following. He said, I'll just be straight up about this, Michael Rosenbaum said. WB called my agents on Friday afternoon when I was in Florida visiting my grandfather in a nursing home. Their offer, no script, no idea what I'm doing, no idea when I'm shooting, and basically no money. And the real kick in the ass, we have to know now. My simple answer was pass. I think you can understand why. And there are two elements to this, guys, that I think that are important to note. Number one, that and it wasn't just me, there's a lot of you guys too, a lot of us who thought that maybe Michael Rosenbaum would come back. Well, they did have that idea and they did go to him. And it is disturbing that they would go to him and say, agree to be in this thing, and you have to agree now, and we're not going to tell you what it is you're going to be doing, and we're not going to tell you is when you're going to be shooting, and we're not going to tell you what we're going to have the character like, and we're not going to tell you anything. You just have to agree right now or no, and we're basically not going to pay you much. We're going to pay you next to nothing. I don't blame Michael Rosenbaum at all for saying no. Now, at the same time, I wouldn't have blamed him if he had said yes. You know, it would have been fine if he decided to say yes to this, Rob. I mean, that's fine too, but I can't blame him for saying no to this in the least. But this is where it becomes more concerning, is that they have no idea what they would have. Look, I said this before. I always enjoy the CW crossover events every year. I get a big kick out, particularly Crisis on Earth X.
Yep.
That one was really fun. But they've done a number of really good ones, and they're always enjoyable and always a good laugh. Going into this one, they added Kevin Conroy. They're adding, Brandon Routh is going to be Superman 2. We got Tom Welling coming back. Aaron throwing all this kind of stuff. And I said the other day on this show, I said, I've got a little bit of a worry here that they're not even thinking about how good the story is going to be. To me, it feels like they're just, let's just throw everything into it and it'll work itself out. It'll be big fan service. And I'll tell you what, reading this comment from Michael Rosenbaum saying that just kind of really establishes those fears. It really does now sound very much like they're not putting much thought into the story. They're not putting much thought into how well will this actually play as a piece of screen entertainment. They're just worried about throwing whatever in. When you're calling up a guy to be in it saying, hey, just agree to this. We don't know what your character's going to do. We don't know what he's going to do, but just agree to it and come and be in it. That doesn't speak very highly to me, Rob, about how they're approaching this crossover event, about how much thought and planning they're putting into this thing. To me, it just feels like they're winging it off their asses right now. And I got to admit, look, I'm not expecting Shakespeare from CW. Let's be clear. I'm not. But I want them to at least make it look like they're taking this like, hey, we've got a responsibility to our audience. They deserve for us to deliver to them a quality piece of entertainment that's going to be a fun and blah, blah, blah. But it feels to me like they're just winging this damn thing. And this Michael Rosenbaum comment just kind of reinforces it. I don't know. Am I getting too paranoid about that, Rob? What do you look and see into this situation?
I think not at all. Basically what all actors want is they want to play a good part. at the end of the day. And if you're doing a crossover like this and you're going after a guy who was on a Smallville ran, 10 years?
Yeah.
11
Something
years?
like that, yeah.
So there's a certain level of respect that any actor has earned over the course of a decade playing a character on a show. Now, if you're going to go to him and you're going to be like, hey, we have this really cool idea, the way that you attract an actor is to give them sides. Sides are the part that you're playing. It's script pages. They're called sides. You send them a part and go, how great is this? Even if that part was 2 pages, if there was something really unique and interesting that made that actor invaluable, who would add something to the proceedings, if an actor reads a great part, their first impulse is like, I want to do this. Sure, they're going to want to get paid. That's absolutely true. But if you give an actor a part like this in an event like this, and it's a good part, they're not going to just be like, no, don't worry. Their people will negotiate, and they'll play the game, which is true. But if you give somebody something that's really good to play, people want to play it. You can't call an actor up and say, we want you to come back for our crossover event and not tell them what they're doing. Because what you're doing is you're saying you as an actor are not important. We just want your face. Yeah. And no actor just wants that. An actor wants to play a part that leaves an impression. Look, when Beatrice Straight was in Network, the movie Network, she was in Network for like 5 minutes. She won a Best Supporting Actress
Yes, she did.
Academy Award for that because it was a great part. That's what actors want. That's all they want. I mean, sure, everybody wants to get paid, but you also want to play something that's great. And it bums me out, just like you said, John. If they didn't know what they wanted Lex Luthor for, then Lex Luthor doesn't know what they want him for either. Right. So why should he play the part?
Yeah, I completely agree.
They did not give him a reason to say yes.
Yeah, and who knows? Like, what if they see what CW's done with Superman, right? So he signs up and he comes back, and if you saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, actors being made to look stupid even playing a character, that's important to them. So like, who knows what they're going to have done to Lex Luthor if he comes back, right? I mean, it's concerning to me. Chris, what do you make of this whole situation? Do you think this is something that's like, hey, come on, Rosenbaum hasn't exactly been busy on screen lately. Like, do you understand and sympathize with why he would pass this up?
I do. And initially, when you were pretty skeptical of all these cameos, I was like, John, come on, it's going to be fine. You're being so negative. Just hang in there. And now with this comment, it's, they didn't have a script. And why would you just throw Lex Luthor in without any reasoning? You know, he's a mastermind. He needs to have those sides. He needs to have that script because obviously if you want Lex to be part of a crossover story, he should have a pretty big part. He's a very, very big part of the DC universe. And I've been so excited about this, and I was really hoping Michael would come back because what we have here is so many fun opportunities, what with Erica being both Lois and Kara Zor-El's mom,
right.
With Brandon being, Superman as well, and having Tom come back and not only being able to play Lex Luthor, but coming in and being able to do Wally West because he was the voice of the Flash on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited.
Right, I totally forgot about that.
And maybe even doing that and having, Tom and Erica be very, very iffy about this guy because he's got the face of their arch enemy. I love the idea of that, but not having a script that you can show, that makes me really, really nervous.
It's concerning.
And what's funny is you go like, okay, you just look at the DC comics with like President Luthor. Like there's what if you have the encroaching? I just keep remembering the opening pages of Crisis on Infinite Earths 1, where you had Earth 3 being destroyed, and Alexander Luthor, who is a hero on Earth 3, was trying to save the world as the wave of whatever it was, unreality or destroying the universe is happening. What if you gave Rosenbaum, as young as he still is, some like Morgan Freeman Deep Impact speech where like he's giving this speech where him and Superman are working together. He's President Luthor and Tom Welling's Superman is trying to stop the encroaching end of the universe or something. And you give him like a 2-minute scene where he's giving a great speech and he's talking to Superman, or I don't know. It's a 2-page scene, but the end of the universe happens on their watch, and he gets to give some amazing, we will rebuild speech, like at the end of Deep Impact when Morgan Freeman was president of the United States. Who wouldn't want to do that? Like, look, I just made that up on this show. Write that up. Send that to him. This is your sides. Here you go.
Yeah, there are so many storylines, and this is a huge, huge comic arc. why is there nothing to show these actors? That's where I'm really confused.
Yeah, that's the part that's concerning to me is that, so you have so lack of a plan.
Yeah.
That you're just going to actors, hey, come on back me in there. What would I be doing? We don't know. Mm-hmm. That's not good. And this is coming from a guy who's liked all this stuff. Question is, guys, what do you think about all this? Do you think maybe Rosenbaum just should have sucked it up and been in it anyway? Is it not concerning at all in the least that they went to him without a plan? Are you concerned like me that they don't seem to have a plan? What are your thoughts on this? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on now to main topic number 4. Chris, what is our 4th main topic today?
4th topic is from Geeky Gator. Hey, John. I just read that Feige almost quit his job at Marvel due to clashing with CEO Perlmutter. They eventually split the two sides, but could you imagine if he did quit? How different would the MCU be today? Would it still have succeeded? Do you think we could have had the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it without Feige?
I mean, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, and I'm sure there's, Rob put out a really good tweet the other day, say over the next coming days, there's going to be 70,000 YouTube videos made about this thing, a book that none of these people have even read yet. But
Right.
Bob Iger has just put out his new book and talking about his 15 years of leading Disney, which I am going to get on today. I'm going to start listening to that today because I'm going to download the audio version and listen to it. But one of the things that he talked about, now we all remember a couple of years ago when Alan Horn didn't used to be overseeing the MCU. In a very, very unique situation at Marvel, there were movies being made that weren't under the purview of Alan Horn. It was under Ike Perlmutter, who's heading up Marvel for Disney. And Kevin Feige was reporting directly to Ike Perlmutter. But that situation wasn't good. And then they did a massive restructuring years ago where they moved all the movie division stuff from the MCU under Alan Horn. And now Kevin Feige was reporting directly to Alan Horn instead of Ike Perlmutter. Anyway, Bob Iger talks about this in his book, and it comes out to this too. Kevin, says Bob, is one of the most talented film executives in the business. But my sense was that the strained relationship with New York, aka Ike Perlmutter, was threatening his continued success, aka he was going to leave. I knew I had to intervene. And so in May of 2015, I made the decision to split Marvel's movie-making unit off from the rest of Marvel and bring it under Alan Horn and the Walt Disney Studios. Kevin would now report directly to Alan and would benefit from his experience, and the tensions that had built up between him and New York office would be alleviated. Bob Iger, by the way, once again proving why he is the best movie executive, even though he's not a movie executive. He's the head of Disney Corp all over, but why he's one of the smartest executives in the business. He recognized a bad situation. He made what I'm sure was a painful transition for a number of people there and made that happen. But yeah, the relationship, from everything we've all heard, the relationship between Kevin Feige and Ike Perlmutter really was that bad. It was that bad to the point that even though 4.5 years ago, the MCU was not where it is today, but it was already a big thing. Kevin Feige, we had all heard whispers about this. Kevin Feige was getting ready to hit the exit door. He was getting ready to go. He found the situation untenable and he was going to leave. Imagine if he had. Imagine if he had. Now, this gets us into a what if question, Rob. What would have happened? How would this have played out? The real answer to that question is we'll never know. But it couldn't have been good. Kevin, I'm not saying it would have been disastrous. I'm not saying if Kevin Feige would have left that he wouldn't have had a couple of lieutenants been able to stand up and keep the ship going and all. Absolutely. But losing Kevin Feige definitely would not have been a good thing. Kevin Feige had already laid out the blueprint and all that kind of stuff, but make no mistake about it, it has been his guiding hand over all the movies that has brought the MCU to where it is today. And a huge kudos to Bob Iger for making that move, and the rest has become history. So, Rob, I'm not going to sit here and say, if Kevin Feige had left, everything would have fell apart. I'm not going to say that. But it wouldn't have been good. And I do think that maybe Bob Iger didn't avert a disaster, but I think he averted fairly negative situation by doing this. Rob, how do you see, if we had to look into a crystal ball and say, how would the future have unfolded? If we could have done, It's a Wonderful Life and look back on our life if Kevin Feige had indeed left 4.5 years ago, disaster, not a big deal. Where do you think we would have been today?
Well, I'll tell you what, this just listening to you talk makes me want to see an episode. What if?
What if?
What if Kevin Feige had left the MCU, leaving Ike Perlmutter to call the shots? I mean, that's got to be an extra episode, a special Christmas episode of the Marvel What If series for Disney Plus. No, I think, what's really interesting is Ike Perlmutter is a nuts and bolts spreadsheet kind of a guy. He's not a creative. It was all over money. And I'm sure Ike Perlmutter was probably like, you want to pay so-and-so, whether it was Robert Downey Jr., what to be in this? How much is Downey Jr. going to make for Spider-Man Homecoming? What? And Kevin Feige knows. I mean, the guy knows. Remember, he made 13 Marvel movies. Well, he worked on 13 Marvel movies before the MCU started, before Iron Man. He knows. And he's like, look, it doesn't matter how much Robert Downey Jr. wants. I know you think it's an exorbitant amount of money. We are going to pay him because it means this much more money to our overall cinematic universe and to Spider-Man Homecoming. I know what I'm doing. You do not, because you're making decisions based on money alone. I'm sure that was where the tension came from. And so Kevin Feige's like, if you're not going to let me do my job, why should I be here? And of course, cooler heads prevailed. Bob Iger, my man Bob Iger. I got to talk to him about this at our Sunday squash game. But we clearly
pitch him that Campea's Iron Man Reborn.
Too.
I
will. I'll do both. I'll do over my lobster at Jeffrey's in Malibu.
Oh, good.
I think that it just shows what a great executive is, and this is how business is made. This is how business is conducted. Bob Iger knew what was going on. He had to save his golden goose, and he had to make sure he had to make nice with the money guy. So he did exactly what a great studio head does.
What also came out of that too was that a couple of things that Perlmutter, and this is going in advance, but he did not want to. He was not going to greenlight Black Panther. He didn't think He was not going to greenlight Captain Marvel. And what did those films do? Oh, they both joined the $1 billion club.
Yeah.
I mean, so we look back now and we say, oh, well, that was clearly an easy decision. We always think that in hindsight, big decisions that were made were easy decisions. At that time, that could not have been an easy decision.
Nope.
To completely restructure the way his corporation was running, to really kind of throw one guy under the bus in favor for another guy, to reallocate all the guys around one creative person, Kevin Feige. That was a huge decision. And then, again, in hindsight, we can look back and go, oh, that was an easy decision. But we weren't there, and we weren't in that situation at the time. And I think that was pretty massive. Question is, guys, what, you're going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, this is when somebody knows they are right.
Yeah.
Like Bob Iger went with his gut, and he knew. And he wasn't wrong, and he wins in the end. I mean, and this is, look, there's a lot of money. There's always a huge element of risk in Hollywood. But a guy like Bob Iger, when you know your business, you know how to win, and you know the decisions you have to make. And Iger did it. And
he did. Question is, guys, how do you think the MCU would have worked out in the end had the unthinkable have happened? That 4.5 years ago, Kevin Feige had actually up and left the MCU and Marvel instead of this restructuring that Bob Iger did. What do you guys think about that whole situation? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. Chris, what is our fifth and final main topic today?
It's the topic the comment section has been waiting for. Daniel Rojo writes in, I'm sure by now that you heard the controversy around Joker, from people complaining that it has a white male character killing people, and people saying this film will cause violence and mass shootings. Phoenix said, quote, I don't think it's the responsibility of a filmmaker to teach the audience morality or the difference between right or wrong. So, my question, why are people making a huge deal of this when we had 3 John Wick movies and other movies that had a lot of gun violence? Where do you guys stand on this?
Look, the one thing I want to say off the top before we get into this, and I think this is important. I think this is important to keep in mind, and this should kind of cover everything that we talk about from here on out, okay? The first statement is this. It is completely understandable that people be sensitive to certain things. I'll give you an example. You guys know, just a couple years ago, it's one of the things that prompted me to go out on my own. My best friend growing up passed away of cancer a couple years ago. And it had a profound impact on me, as it would with anybody, for sure. And in the coming months, and you know what? I'll still say it to this day. When I'm watching a TV show or a movie and the issue of cancer comes up, I'm sensitive to it. It's a little disturbing to me. It's a little bothersome to me. It's something that affects, everybody to some degree, for sure. And I'm sensitive to it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with me being sensitive to it. If somebody loses a loved one in a car accident, then having a movie that is predicated on some massive car pileup and thing, you can forgive, and it be completely understandable that there may be some people in the audience that are going to be sensitive to that. Of course, because a lot of people have been touched in their lives by the tragedy of car accidents and people getting hit and losing their lives or having their lives forever changed and altered. I'm sure there are people around the world who have lost people in plane accidents. And so then you go and watch The Boys, where there's not one but two significant scenes with planes going down. You got to be able to understand that there are going to people, and it's completely respectable, are going to feel sensitive to that and feel like that's either painful for me to watch, or I don't want to watch that, or I don't want to see that. And that's understandable. There are people in this world who have been affected by violence, and particularly gun violence. And so that there would be people in our world that would be sensitive to that whenever it's portrayed on a television screen or a movie screen, whatever, that's completely understandable. That is completely understandable. And I think it's important that I say that first, because that statement has to cover everything else that we talk about here. Somebody being sensitive to stuff like that is completely normal and completely understandable, and I absolutely endorse it, and I'm completely support them on that. However, in a world, and I'm really, really glad the person who wrote in brought up the issue of John Wick. In a world that we have John Wick movies, where I haven't seen Joker yet, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to bet you the body count of each John Wick movie is higher than the body count we're going to get in Joker. And if you want to talk about glorifying violence, you got the hero running around just people he's never met. Bullet to the head, bullet to the head, bullet to the head. Woo, I'm John Wick. Yay, John Wick. Bullet to the head, bullet to the head. If you want to talk about anything glorifying violence and gun violence, hell, we even coined a phrase for it. Called it gun fu. We even coined a phrase for it. I love it, but if you're going to have a problem with gun violence, something glorifying violence or anything like that, we have plenty of movies out there. We have Star Wars, where Darth Vader and his Emperor are going around committing genocide across the galaxy. We have Jaws, where a fish is eating people. We have all these things. Look.
Fish has got to eat.
Fish has got to eat, Rob. Fish has got to eat. So look, now we come to a movie like Joker. All right? We come to a movie like Joker. A movie that the vast, vast majority of us have still not seen. The vast majority. I still haven't seen it. You probably still haven't seen it. There's a very small group of people out there who've seen it. But there's not a small group of people that are decrying the movie, saying that it glorifies violence, look, a movie having violence in it does not glorify violence. I would even say that about John Wick. John Wick, look, it's a story. It's a fairy tale, When we read, Snow White, are we saying we're glorifying people poisoning each other? Are we worried that, some girl out there now who feels like she's second best to another girl in her school, she's going to start poisoning other girls.
I did.
Which Chris clearly did. Make no mistake about it. How do you think she's got the job? She figured out. Chris came into
the comments are going to be like, Ashley,
She came into the auditions. When I stepped out, she looked through the other resumes that came in, made mental note, and she was the last one left.
Yep.
But, this notion that art and movies cause. I remember recently there was a big thing about this as well, that some brain dead twits out there are trying to say that video games cause violence. It's like, really? Well, let's take a look at video game. Oh, look how high the percentage of the kids in Australia who play video games. Any gun violence there? Nah. Ooh, look at the extreme higher than the United States per capita. More kids in Canada play violent video games per capita than they do in the United States. Wow, that must be a big violence problem. There's not. The point here is that, number one, these types of movies, it has been proven, do not cause violence, do not cause this, that, and the other thing. But the other thing that I want to go to is this, is what Joaquin Phoenix himself brought up in his statement. It is not up to filmmakers and television producers or Broadway play things to dictate to an audience what their morality should be. That's not their job. Their job is to tell stories. You know, any more than, you know what, making Friday the 13th, that's pretty irresponsible. Because that, like, if there's some guy who feels socially awkward, he's just going to think it's cool now to pick up a machete and go out there and start hacking people to death. No, we don't.
That's cool, though.
I mean, which would be cool if you're trying to get a job. So, so Joaquin Phoenix is completely right. Number one, it is not the filmmaker's job to teach moral lessons. If that were the case, you could never have a character having an affair. You could never show somebody cheating on their taxes. You could never show somebody running a red light. You could never show a heroic cop trying to chase down drug dealers. You could never do this, and you could never do that, and you could never do the other thing. Storytellers are there to tell stories that we as audience members then need to determine for ourselves, what do we take from those stories? And the answer to the question is not, don't let them tell stories. That's not the answer. It's not the answer. And the fact that everybody seems to be drawing their attention to Joker on this, I find troubling when there are movies like we just had Halloween where Michael is walking around butchering and killing people and all, but nobody said, well, this is gonna glorify violence. This is gonna make people want to go out and start killing each other. Where we have John Wick, where we have the hero murdering, for all we know, some college kid who just got in with the wrong crowd and is trying to pay off his college tuition by being a security guy for this, and he's going to take a bullet to the head from John Wick. We don't talk about it with that. Why does it become an issue with Joker? Is it because Joker's getting attention, so let's use Joker as our scapegoat? I find the whole situation very troubling. I find it very troubling. And it reinforces to me that, look, we as a human species, we're idiots. I mean, we are. You can be an idiot. I can be an idiot. We all can be massive idiots at times. And this is one of those times where I think we've just lost our collective damn minds. It's a movie. It's a movie. It's a piece of fiction meant to tell a cautionary tale that is up to you and me as audience members to take away from that cautionary tale whatever we would want. And to get back to the original point, Rob, of, do I feel like anybody out there who's been affected by violence and affected by specifically, say, gun violence in our culture, that they shouldn't be sensitive to something like this? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. Of course you're going to be sensitive to it. Just like I'm still sensitive to when cancer comes up and things, when somebody else would be sensitive if they lost loved ones in car accidents, or somebody would be sensitive to the boys if they lost somebody in an airplane incident. Of course I can understand that, and I don't blame them one bit. But this notion of piggybacking on Joker for a political agenda to try to make some point about art, to me, I'm just going to call it what it is. It's idiotic. It's absolutely idiotic. It's an idiotic thing being proposed by people who haven't seen the movie, being defended by another idiot who hasn't seen the movie yet either. So don't think the irony of that isn't lost on me. Okay, so anyway, that's my thought on this. Rob, it is a touchy issue. I get it. But as you look at something like this, and by the way, Warner Brothers was forced to put out a statement saying, we at Warner Brothers do not endorse gun violence. Of course they don't. Nobody's saying they endorse gun violence. You know, the producers that made Rambo didn't endorse gun violence. The people who produced Commando didn't endorse. The people who made John Wick don't secretly want everybody to go out and just start shooting everybody who looks at them wrong or, accidentally kicks their puppy. It's not the case. Rob, you look at a situation like this. I've gone on too long. You've looked at a situation like this. How do you respond?
Well, I think of certain examples in my own life, my own film-going life. One of my favorite movies is Paul Verhoeven's Basic Instinct. And in that movie, Sharon Stone, at the beginning of that film, her character, Catherine Trammell, kills record impresario rock and roller Johnny Boz with an ice pick to the face while they're having sex.
Which is effective.
And I think to myself, if I was ever afforded the opportunity to actually have sex with Catherine Trammell, with Sharon Stone in real life, would I say no because I thought she might stick an ice pick in my face? The answer to that question is no. If I ever had an opportunity to spend the evening with Sharon Stone, I would take it. I wouldn't think twice. I don't think real life really has anything to do with movies. The Joker is a character who is a homicidal maniac. And we are watching the forging of his personality and how he perhaps became a homicidal maniac. He's been a homicidal maniac throughout his entire comic book career. And the idea that a movie about the forging of a homicidal maniac somehow glorifies violence is utterly ridiculous. The whole point of the film is that let's not be a society, and again, John, I haven't seen the movie, so I'm just assuming, let's not be a society that allows people like the Joker to be created. We all could be kinder, I would imagine, if a character like, was it Arthur Fleck?
Yeah.
If somebody extended perhaps an olive branch or showed him a little bit more kindness, you know, if he's coming back from his job where he's dressed as a clown, guy's making a buck, perhaps if somebody doesn't make fun of him on a train and beats him up or something, maybe he wouldn't have turned into a homicidal maniac. My favorite movie, well, my second favorite movie of all time is A Clockwork Orange, which ran into the same kinds of problems. And indeed, there were certain copycat crimes committed in Britain which caused Stanley Kubrick to have the film pulled from release for decades. And look, people are idiots, like you pointed out. The human species does not have a good track record treating each other nicely over the last couple thousand years. And it's not because of movies. And I think that art need not be limited or constrained by certain people that are a little overly sensitive about the horrors that we visit upon one another on a daily basis. It's not the movie that's doing it. You know, it's the person that's going to go out and perpetrate violence. And I don't think any movies should be considered responsible for that. There's no causality at all.
The job of art, we've heard said, Rob, is sometimes to dream of what we can be, where we can go, but it's also meant to be something that expresses our fears, become cautionary tales that are meant to hold up a mirror and look at things in our world in an allegorical sort of way.
That's right.
This is the job of art. This is the job of film. Sometimes it's meant to make us laugh. Sometimes it's meant to make us cry. Sometimes it's make us to feel apprehension and fear, but that's the job of art. And we can't start suddenly when we can see plainly, when all the facts and statistics prove the point that these aren't causalities. Mm-hmm. It's something we got to understand. Chris, as an artist yourself, as an actress and something like that, you see something like this. I mean, and you've done voices and animations with lots of violence and things like that. How do you approach this?
These things don't incite violence, you guys. I mean, and my video games that I've worked on or played have not made me pick up a gun. And I understand there is a concern of glorifying violence or glorifying a violent character. And I think a lot of the early reviews of this film have people worried that it could be glorifying someone who essentially is a domestic terrorist. And I think the thing that people are really, really holding on to and are triggered by is some of those reviews we talked about on this show, where one person, it might have been the Times review, I can't remember which one, said that this Joker was the patron saint of incels. And now that has people really, really worried about what's going to happen around this movie. Are people going to be inspired by this character? Are people going to look at him as a psychological study for understanding why someone would be like this? I'm thinking it's going to be the latter, and that was why I was interested in this film in the first place, to see it. I don't think that movies are responsible for the actions of individuals. I don't think video games are responsible for the actions of individuals. I don't think you can make a blanket statement about why people are violent aside from the fact that some people just are. And in our country, we obviously have a lot of issues with this, and it's not a movie issue. I don't think we should be jumping the gun here. Sorry, bad use of it, but about what this movie is going to be without any of us having seen it. And people's outrage right now, you gotta know about something until you can really, really make an opinion on it. You can't say that something tastes disgusting if you've never eaten it, you know? Yeah.
And again, I just want to throw this for a third time. I have to throw this down. This is, again, in no way, I think, reflects any of our opinions about somebody who feels sensitive to these issues.
Absolutely.
Of course. And that's another thing that art does. Art will sometimes make us feel uncomfortable and put us in those places. And sometimes that's catharsis for us. And sometimes in ways, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just troubling. And I get that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I support that. But there's a line that gets crossed when we start to saying, you know what, from now on, we're going to go back to the comic book code days. From now on, movie makers can only make things with funny giggles and talking deers, and just the biggest problem of the day is Downton Abbey with who's going to fix the hot water heater.
But that's equally bad. I mean, no, but I mean, not Downton Abbey, but I mean, it's equally bad that we're only getting that kind of entertainment because that denies the reality of human existence.
Exactly.
And denies what art is on its DNA supposed to do and
Absolutely.
supposed to be. So, guys, listen, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is a simple issue. It's not. I have my opinions about it, but that doesn't mean I think it's a simple issue and that I don't think there aren't other points of view as well. I'm curious to know what you guys think about all of that. As a matter of fact, that's why we made that the topic of today's question of the day. The question of the day that I posed to you guys, which you can go over and see and vote on over on my Twitter, just simply at John Campea there. I put up the following and asked this. Do you agree with the statement? Studios and filmmakers shouldn't make movies like Joker because they will cause and inspire real-life violence in the real world. We discussed this some more on today's show. I put this up just before the show started. Right now, over 2,100 of you guys have voted. It's pretty lopsided right now. Right now, 96% of you are saying that you disagree with that statement. 4% of you are saying that you agree with the statement. I want to know what you guys think about this overall. Jump down to the comments section. And remember, we're all human beings together here, guys. But jump down to the comments section below and leave your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, I'm sure many of you guys have more things you want to discuss about here, and I'm sure there's many things regarding to this. We're going to carry on this topic probably in the live chat as people are firing in questions. But before we get to the live chat, guys, we're going to take a short break here as we always do. We're going to stretch our legs, rest our vocal cords for a second, refill our drinks. So hang tight with us, guys. We will be back in just 3.5 minutes. We'll see you momentarily. All right, and we are back. Thank you guys for your indulgence as we took a minute there to stretch the legs, refill our drinks, and now we're back and ready to get rolling here with the live questions that you guys have been firing in. So let's jump right into it here. And our first live question today comes to us from Frank. And Frank writes, "Hey John, did you see The Last of Us Part 2 trailer? If only we had talked about that." Yes, as a matter of fact, Frank, we did. We talked about that right off the top. We were both very, very impressed by it. We thought it was great. Artur Mansouri writes, one of two. "Hey, John, I think you're wrong. When Cap says Avengers assemble in Endgame, right after he whispers assemble, you can hear Thor scream, then Black Panther scream, then everyone else, and they run towards Thanos' army. My point is everyone starts running once Thor screams. Honestly, Artur, this is a conversation I've had about 25 times, including we've talked about this specific thing on this show many times when people say, well, what if they all started running as a result of Thor going, yeah, and then that's when they started running. I mean, oh yeah, that's a thing to be made, but it does not alleviate the fact that everybody's there and Captain America goes, everybody hears Captain America go, Avengers! And it's still dumb. It's still dumb. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Captain America finally said, after 20-something movies and 10 years, we finally hear Captain America say, Avengers assemble. But it should have been, Avengers assemble. And then everybody, yeah, that's what it should have been. Not Avengers assemble. I mean, it doesn't make either way you look at it, it doesn't make any sense to me, Rob. I mean, again, because the moment's so glorious, I forgive it.
Right.
But it's they still had him go, Avengers! Like, why yell one word to quietly whisper the second word? That part, I don't get that choice. That's fine. And we overlook it, and that's fine, but I don't get it. What do you say to that?
I'm with you 100%. I mean, I wanted him, especially when he's battered and beaten and bloody the way he is, and when I wanted that should have been that final burst, that cathartic moment where
he should have raised the shield.
That's it, man. He's doing like that but was it the Dragon Ball Z run the guy did in the Area 51 thing when he puts his hands behind, leans forward and runs? You know, I mean, Captain America should have gone full on screaming banshee like into the fray. You know, I mean, I understand why they did it. I get it.
I don't.
But it's just,
I don't get the whisper.
I would have preferred a more cathartic moment, but I still love it.
Of course. We still love it, though.
Yeah.
We absolutely still love it. All right, next up, Sidious Swift writes, unfortunately, it's easier to blame movies, video games, etc., than actually self-reflect and working on hard to address issues in a tangible way. Oh, no, that's true. Look, these things like video games, movies, they become scapegoat excuses for people not to want to deal with the real issues. Now, I'm not going to get political. I'm not going to get anything like that. But you're absolutely right. And that's not just about this one issue. That's a condition of all of us, of humanity. We prefer to deal with surface, what's the words they used before? We prefer to deal with the symptoms instead of the cause. Let's just say that. We as a people have a tendency to do that, and I think that's true with this situation as well, Sidious. Who Reacts writes, you misunderstood my recent Jurassic Park comment. Alan solved his seatbelt issue by using two female ends, foreshadowing the whole movie, i.e. girls breeding. I'm not sure I'm getting this at all. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure I'm catching your... Do you understand what it is he's trying to say?
Well, solved his seatbelt issue. Is that because he tied them together? Like, I get it. But I don't... I don't quite understand the analogy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's sometimes people type out things in certain ways that I'm sure makes total sense in their head.
Yeah,
but when I'm reading it from that point, it's going right in my head. I don't get what you're.
I'm missing
saying.
that one too.
Sorry about that, dude. All right, JB Bonifacio writes, life finds a way, and that way is tons of money. Yeah, I'm so excited to see him come back and play in this role, JB. So excited. Abe 10 Alpha writes, while The Last of Us 2 trailer was great, I think the trailer for the Call of Duty Modern Warfare story mode was even better. I have not seen. I
watched that.
My buddy Ryan loves that franchise, plays it all the time. I haven't seen it. What's the basic gist of it?
Well, I mean, they're terrorists and they're going after them, but again, the character designs, they're so realistic. I mean, there's a scene in that trailer where just a helicopter lands, and it's like, I'm like, am I watching movie footage? Like, am I watching? It looks so great. I mean, it looks great.
I gotta go now. I gotta go check that out.
The trailer's great. It looks like the next, it looks like a Tom Clancy TV series. It's incredible.
All right. Next up is Nathan Oswald, who writes,
I feel like I'm bombed out Syria.
birthdays today. Oh, I love when Nathan sends his birthdays. Donald Glover is 36. Childish is 36 today. Catherine Zeta-Jones is 50. Still looks amazing. Will Smith is 51, and he's still the Fresh Prince. Heather Locklear is 58. Michael Masden is 62. Mark Hamill is 68 years old today. Anson Williams is 70, and Michael Douglas turns 75. And you know what? I know it's probably not the one he would choose. But when you bring up the name Michael Douglas, a lot of people, understandably so, are going to go to Wall Street. They're going to go to, what's the one you just mentioned with Sharon Stone?
Basic Instinct.
They're going to go to
Nick Curran.
Basic Instinct. They might even go all the way back to the streets of San Francisco. And this is going to be weird. When I think of Michael Douglas, I think of Las Vegas now. I think of Las Vegas.
That is weird, John.
I love that movie, and I think he's so good in it. And the dude just turned 75, and good on him.
He's married to Catherine Zeta-Jones, who's turning 50. They have the same birthdays.
I didn't even realize that. I didn't even put that two together.
I mean, party in the Douglas house. What's up?
Oh my goodness. And by the way, Michael's dad is still rocking it.
Right.
I mean, it's good for them. Good family genes. All right. Let's see. Barth Revan writes, Aaron, who is not here today, I'm curious, studying acting and directing in school, 3 things. What is the best way to acquire an agent? 2, what is the difference between an agent and a manager? 3, any general tips? Okay, so basically, Barth, you're asking for hour-long essays and things like this. So unfortunately, Wednesdays, Aaron is never here on Wednesdays. So these aren't her days, unfortunately. One of the toughest things, though, and for somebody who's hearing Barth ask that question, might think, oh, well, just go get an agent. Isn't that easy? Seriously, I've had many actor friends in this town who say the hardest thing in Hollywood, if you're an actor, is not getting a role. It's getting an agent. It's a very, very tough thing. So I'm not qualified to answer that question at all, Rob. Do you have any way of answering that?
I had an agent for a while. Basically, how you get an agent is you do some work, good work that makes you worthy of being signed by an agent who sees that you have potential. And then also the difference between an agent and a manager, at least it used to be this way, a manager cannot solicit work for you, whereas a talent agent can. So a manager manages your career and works with your agent, but the agent's the one that goes out and makes phone calls and tries to get you a job. Whereas a manager can't do that.
Watch Entourage. It's the difference between Ari and not Turtle. What was the name of the one? The one that was his manager.
Yeah. What?
Yes. The short guy.
Yeah, the short guy.
I can't remember which one.
Who's now directing.
Let's see. Let's move on here. Next up, Colin Williams writes, top 10, Manchester by the Sea, Reservoir Dogs, The Social Network, Fight Club, Pulp Fiction, Inception, The Wolf of Wall Street, Nightcrawler, Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's one people haven't put on their list much.
I love that movie.
It's so good. I mean, you got this young cast that completely, they all deliver. I mean, they all completely deliver. It's you believe in the dynamics. You get bought into the story. I mean, it's a wonderful film. I'm glad to see somebody put that on the list. Good on you, Colin, for putting that one on there. All right. The Bearded One writes, Go Cowboys, Dak Attack. I still have no belief in the Cowboys at all. I still have no beliefs in the Cowboys at all, and I still don't think Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback in the league. But that's not casting shade on him, because when you look at who the top 10 quarterbacks in the league are, it's like, it's a good list. There's a lot of good quarterbacks playing in the league right now. But anyway, I still don't believe in the Cowboys. I still don't. Monty P. Moneybags writes, saw Hustlers with my mother. Woo! That must have been something. I haven't been that uncomfortable watching movies since we watched Magic Mike. Great family movie, though. Yeah. But listen, Monty, I don't know how you're surprised. It's not like Magic Mike. Okay, yeah, you could... The advertiser for Magic Mike, you know what they do for a living, but at the same time, you think it's just going to be a fun romp kind of comedy. Hustlers was pretty clear in its marketing. It's a group of strippers doing a lot of stripping, drugging men and I don't know what you're expecting. I got to imagine I would have felt uncomfortable watching that with my mom too, Rob. What about you?
Well, I think moms know what's up, and I bet your mom was secretly thinking, God, I wish I was one of those girls.
Take all that money. Take that money. All right. Who Reacts writes, JB Bonifacio, wow, you paid to reply to me. Amazing. What did JB say? I'm just going back.
Oh, it's who reacts.
Yeah, life finds a way. Tons of money. There you go. All right. Next up, Nosferatu writes, we got this covered, needs to stop running these Spider-Man news stories. Look, I want to be very, very careful, because here's the thing. Every day, I get people write me messages. John, did you see reports are saying this? And it's something outrageous. And I immediately write back to the people, where did this report come from? The thing is, when you have a site like We Got This Covered, and again, let me be very clear. I'm not saying We Got This Covered is not a fabulous, entertaining site. That I'm not saying that they don't have great interaction and great opinions and great editorials. I'm not saying any of that whatsoever. Don't get me wrong. But this site runs the most ludicrous, they just make up shit and run it every day. Sources tell us exclusively, remember, sources tell us the day before D23, Disney and Sony have reached a deal, it's done, and everybody runs with it, and then we get to D23 and realize it was all bull. When one site like this is running these crazy, high profile, in the comic book movie world, these crazy stories that are coming all the time. It's like, and I'm not saying that they're never right. Like a broken clock is right twice a day, but they're just nonsense. So that's why I tell people, look, I'm not saying don't read and be entertained by We Got This Covered. I'm not saying don't read and don't be entertained by Cosmic Book News and stuff like that. But what I am saying is never write to me with a story. Say, John, did you hear about this story? It's not a story if it comes from either of those two places. If those are the originating sites, it's not a story. And you know what, Rob? I think I'm actually going to start making a rule where right now, when you go to fill out the form to send in a topic, it says keep your things to 90 words or less. I think I'm going to start making it a rule. If you're writing it about a news story, include a link to where it comes from.
Yep.
Tell me where it is you're getting this from.
It's a good check.
And then we move on from there. But you're right. They do need to stop. But you know why they're not going to stop? Because everybody picks up on their stories and runs with it. Even though it's BS and none of it's true, everybody runs with it and it gets them lots of traffic. So they're not going to stop. It's not their responsibility to stop. If it's working for them, they're going to keep doing it. And I'm not saying I blame them. It's up to the individual readers to stop picking up on it and running it and then spreading it around, telling their friends, oh my gosh, did you hear that Tom Holland is going to come back and play in the MCU anyway against Sony's wishes? Really? And we spread it around. We got to stop spreading it around. Anyway, Alyssa Rodriguez writes, check 2019 box office on Wikipedia and Captain Marvel was changed to Captain Social Justice Warrior. Why are people still like this? People just reveal that they're insecure little snowflakes and cupcakes. I mean, that's basically it. They can't take it. Anyway, Darth Scorn writes, I've seen every version of the original Blade Runner trying to see if I'll like one, but I can't never get over the scene where Deckard rapes Rachel. I don't like or dislike movies because of things that happen in the story. That's part of the overall story. It's not something for me to approve of or disapprove of. I just don't like the movie because I don't like the movie. I mean, that's just me. But Rob, I know you and most people in the world are avid defenders of Blade Runner. You love that movie. You actually wrote an article on it that was published.
I did. I wrote an essay on the box office of Blade Runner. I mean, I have a lot to say about Blade Runner, but I've this criticism has come up a lot about there's a scene where Harrison Ford seduces Rachel and she's vulnerable, and it gets called rape a lot, and I don't necessarily. I'm not going to defend a fictional character's actions in a fictional world that doesn't exist with a person who's a replicant. I'm not going to get into that kind of thing, but I would just say that all of that movie, I can understand if someone's made uncomfortable by a scene in a film, then that doesn't mean that they're not uncomfortable.
Well, you brought up a movie yourself recently. From The Matrix 2, Monica Bellucci.
I can't watch it.
Yeah.
Irreversible. It's the one movie that there's a 10-minute rape scene where Monica Bellucci is horribly violently raped. I have never been able to watch that scene. I just can't do it. And if there's something in a movie that bothers you, then don't watch that movie and turn it off.
Yeah. I mean, because we are all sensitive to certain things. Absolutely. All right. Next up comes to us from David Tapia, writes, Viacom launched a streaming service, BET Plus, for $10. I'm not surprised. I haven't heard that story yet myself. Not surprised. Everybody, look, we are entering into a Wild West era where we're going to get everybody's launching streaming channels. Keep your eyes open for Campea Plus, launching in December of 2020. All right, Who Reacts writes, I nominate John Hammond, worst movie grandfather. Bring his grandkids to. Hey, he thought it. Come on, he thought it was safe.
What could go wrong?
He didn't know one of his own employees would be stealing things and sabotaging security systems and all that kind of stuff. He thought it was safe. Cut Grandpa a break. Okay, next up, Who Reacts writes, I nominate Darth Vader, best movie father. There you go. I always love it every Father's Day. All the Darth Vader stuff that I see around. World's greatest dad, universe's greatest dad, stuff like that. All right. Shifts Live, or Live. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Writes, are you a fan of the Safdie brothers? They just did a couple of things, including one with the new Batman, Robert Pattinson, Good Time, which was fabulous. Anyway, but I'm not going to pretend like I know all their life's work. I'm mostly excited for Uncut Gems because it's their next film. In my humble opinion, Good Times was a masterpiece. Good Times was great. And one of the reasons why those who immediately jumped up and defended the casting of Robert Pattinson as Batman, a lot of that had to do with Good Time, or High Life, or The Rover, or any of the other brilliant performances that Robert Pattinson has done. And Uncut Gems, of course, with Adam Sandler, getting back to doing some dramatic stuff. There's some Oscar buzz going on about that. Whether or not we see that, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm definitely, let's put it this way. They should be on everybody's radar. They should be on everybody's radar. All right, Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on Keke Palmer not knowing who former Vice President Dick Cheney is in Vanity Fair video, sorry to this man. I don't even know who Keke Palmer is. Do you know who Keke Palmer?
I don't.
I don't even know who Keke. So I can't comment. I cannot comment. And who's Dick Cheney?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that one I know, but I don't know who Keke Palmer is. So
He's
I don't know.
That dude that shot another dude in the face.
It's like, wow. Do you remember when that vice president shot another guy in the face?
Yeah,
anyway,
they did make a movie about him.
They did. But unfortunately, Anders, I don't even know who Keke Palmer is, so I can't comment. All right. Ethan's Tech World writes, some of your favorite Star Wars books recommendations. You know what? And I'm freezing on it. The title of it now. Well, first of all, a couple of good ones. Lost Stars is fantastic. I'm just trying to remember the one with Vader and the Emperor. Something Sith. I think it just might be called Lords of the Sith. What's the name of it? Let me just bring it up here just to double check.
Bro, you got to read Death Troopers.
Lords
Star Wars zombie novel.
It is. Lords of the Sith was fantastic. I couldn't remember. It was the Master of the Dark Side, Vader. It was called Lords of the Sith. by Paul S. Kemp, and it basically the idea there's a lot of political intrigue stuff going on around them, but Vader and the Emperor crash on this planet, and there's a lot of people and a lot of things that want to kill them, and it's them on their own in the wild surviving. It's awesome.
I would read that. I don't have that book,
dude. It's great. A couple other ones I would highly recommend. Lost Stars is fabulous. Lost Stars is kind of like a YA novel, but it tells the story of this guy and this girl starting very young, and it follows their life told through the events of the original 3 Star Wars movies, starting with A New Hope through Empire into Return of the Jedi. And they each start to take different paths. One joins and believes in the Empire. One joins and believes in the Rebellion and all. It's beautifully told. It's a wonderful story. I'm also a big fan of the Tarkin novel.
That was good.
I like the Tarkin novel very, very much. So those are a couple ones that I were. Do you have any off the top? I mean, then if you want to go into expanded universe, Legends era, obviously the Grand Admiral Thrawn trilogy, the Heir to the Empire trilogy. I love those books. They're not canon, but they're great. Do you have any that?
Yeah, I was going to say I like the Thrawn. Well, the Thrawn trilogy, the reboot, but I was not kidding when I said Death Troopers. There is a Star Wars zombie novel.
There is?
Yes.
I had no idea.
It's called Death Troopers, and it's a hoot. I don't know if it's exactly what you want to read.
Was it canon, or was it like expanded universe?
No,
Legend
it's
stuff?
It's expanded universe because it's pre-Disney.
Oh, there you go. Then.
But
okay. So it's not the Death Troopers that we get introduced to.
No.
in Rogue One.
No. It's not the Death Troopers that we know.
Got it. All right. Matziv Jada writes, "Why are all debunked violence arguments coming back?" I don't know, because it's the thing to do. People want to deal with straw man stuff than they want to deal with real issues, unfortunately. Christian Allman writes, I am signing up with an online dating service. I need a username, and I have a great one. Little kid lover. That way people know exactly where my priorities are at. I don't recognize the quote, and thank you, Christian, for putting it in quotes, so I don't just think you're a creep.
I don't either.
I don't recognize. If you guys in the live, that sounds funny though. If you guys in the live chat know what that quote is from, please jump it in there into the live chat. But I don't recognize it, unfortunately. But thank you for putting quotes around it. All right, Matthew Grant writes, your favorite movie nightclub scenes. Mine is either Basic Instinct or Playing by Heart with Angelina Jolie and Ryan Felipe. Those are good. You know, this is a little bit of a cheat. And a lot of people hate this scene. I love it. Matrix 2, Cave Rave. We're all gonna die, so let's dance like it's 1999. I dig the cave. I know most people hate that scene. And I know it's not technically a nightclub, but it's kind of like that. I'll call that one. What about you, Rob? You got a
I love the
scene?
nightclub scene from The Aviator.
Oh,
I think it's the Brown Derby or wherever, the Cotton Club, whatever. It's not the Cotton Club, but I love that scene where Howard Hughes is there and Errol Flynn is there, and it's great.
Anyway, okay. Ben Burnside writes, please tell me you are caught up with Mayans, John. I'm not. I haven't started watching Mayans Season 2. The reason I've not started watching Mayans Season 2 yet is that Anne didn't watch Mayans Season 1, and she has just recently decided she wants to watch Mayans. So I am waiting for her to get caught up. She's almost done Season 1. Once she is, then she and I are going to start watching Mayans Season 2. I thought I wasn't going to watch Mayans, even though I love Sons of Anarchy. I just thought it looked like a poor man's Sons of Anarchy. But then I begrudgingly started watching it, and it's not as good as Sons of Anarchy, but it's really good. And I enjoyed it a great deal. So have you been watching Mayans at all, Rob?
No.
But did you watch Sons of Anarchy?
I did.
I would recommend trying Mayans.
I know. I got to get it. I got to get it.
Edward James Olmos is awesome.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
He's really, really good. Anyway, like in one scene, he kind of comes across as this frail grandpa, and then it's like, holy shit, this is the baddest mother effer on the planet. You don't want to F with this guy. Like, check it out. It's really, really good. Okay. Richard Karate writes, Eva Green for She-Hulk, make it happen. Hey, listen, I don't care about who you put. I don't think there's anybody who's perfect for a role. Just put in a good actress. I love Eva Green. If they were to announce tomorrow that Eva Green was going to be She-Hulk, there's about 30 other names as well that I'd be down with, but she'd definitely be down with that. Are you a fan of Eva Green or?
Oh, dude, I love me some Eva Green.
What's
man.
not to love about Eva Green?
Watch The Dreamers.
And you know
movie
what?
The Dreamers.
The 300 sequel, not
yeah.
a great movie.
No, but
I could watch every scene with her in it.
Yeah.
Every scene with her in it. She's, I just love Eva Green. And Penny Dreadful. She was really good in Penny
she's
Dreadful,
so
by
good.
the way, too.
And of course, Casino Royale.
And, of course, Casino Royale. All right. A couple more here before we got to let Rob get on his way. Alex Pitt writes, I'm so excited for The Last of Us 2. The first is my favorite video game of all time. You're not alone in that, Alex. That's for sure. And I even have a tattoo from it on my arm. Less than 5 months to go. I'll tell you what. Listen, I am not a tattoo guy. I don't ever want a tattoo. I've told this story before. I've had a friend who, here's a great reason why I've never gotten a tattoo. I had a friend who had a giant tattoo on their back of the Cobra symbol from G.I. Joe, like shoulder blade to shoulder blade. And I realized, and I didn't know that they had this. And I realized, hey, whenever we got all of our friends together, we were at like pool parties or went to the beach, never got in, never took a shirt off. Part of the reason was that tattoo. And it's because at one point in his life, he loved that thing. And then later on, he didn't think it was that big of it. He didn't love it that much and took it off. So that was always to me like, yeah, that's a cautionary tale. No matter how much I love something right now, I might not love it 5 years from now. And I don't get one. But I dig people who can rock tattoos. People who can rock tattoos, it's awesome. I just could never wear one myself. So when I see people like with a badass, like a Boba Fett tattoo or something like that, I'm envious, but I could still never do it. Have you ever, look, Rob, I don't know this about you. You know, even on our racquetball club excursion, then sitting in the hot steam room in the towels, I've never bothered to take a look and notice. Do you have any tattoos?
I do not have any tattoos, but for that particular reason. I mean, look, I am very fascinated, especially great portraiture work. Anybody that can do, there's a tattoo artist I think out of San Francisco. I follow her on Instagram. Amazing work. But I've never known. I've often thought about getting a tattoo, but I'm like, if I had all the 4 characters from Romero's original Dawn of the Dead tattooed to my arm, or I had Kirk and Spock tattooed on my arm, I had Alex from Clockwork Orange tattooed on my arm, I'd be like, when I'm like 80, if I assume I live to be that old, would I really still want that there? I don't know.
All right. Next up, the Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hey, John, my GN... I don't know what GN is. My GN of the week is Stumptown by Greg Rucka. It follows a detective with gambling issues and is now an ABC drama with Colby Smulders. Fun read. I've been looking for, I want to check out that, because number one, good Canadian kid, Colby Smulders. I love supporting her. As a matter of fact, true story, Rob, I once had Robert Downey Jr. get mad at me. He was doing it in a playful way. But I got to be the host and the moderator for the Avengers Age of Ultron press panel. And so I'm standing there at this podium with this table of everybody. Right beside me was Scarlett Johansson, Joss Whedon, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Colby Smulders, like everybody from the movie, Paul Bettany. Everybody was there. And I remember thinking in my head, and Colby was pregnant at the time. And I remember thinking in my head that, you know what? When it comes time to open questions, with Chris Hemsworth at this table and Chris Evans and Tony Stark and Scarlett Johansson and Joss, I don't think anybody's going to ask Colby a question. So I decided that I started things off, and I led things off by asking a question to Colby Smulders. I said, first one I want to ask is to Colby. And I went over and asked Colby a question. And she was all surprised, and she answered the question. A little bit later, I'm doing it, and I have a picture of this. You see me doing the panel, and you see Robert Downey Jr. in the background raising his hand. And he's raising his hand, and I look over, oh, yeah, Robert. And I look over, and he says, the next time I'm not asked the first question, I am walking the F out of here, right? Which was hilarious and great. But anyway, that's my goal. I love Colby Smulders, and I do want to check out Stumptown. I still don't know what GN is. Is that graphic novel?
Graphic novel, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Stumptown was based on a graphic novel. Really? Oh, I knew not. I just knew I wanted to check out this show. Do you know anything about the graphic novel?
I've not read the graphic novel.
That's interesting. Okay, well, thank you for the recommendation, Mandalorian. I appreciate that. All right, last one we'll ask here with Robert before he's got to split. Geeky Gator writes, Military warned soldiers about possible Joker shooting. Just another thing to ruin the movie-going experience. My 11-year-old sister will no longer go to the theater, even for movies she's excited about. Due to fear of shooting, it hurts me. She can't have the movie-going experience. That is a horrible thing. Rob and I were actually talking about that a little bit before we had started the show today. And, the reality, too, is that, again, you can't make an argument that this is the movie inspiring this violence. Nobody's seen the movie yet. So the movie has not inspired this. These are just losers being losers. These are losers being losers. And it's unfortunate that losers being losers has to affect the everyday routines of people like your sister, Geeky. And that's unfortunate, and that sucks. Rob, your thoughts?
Like you pointed out, that the military issued an order in Texas because of credible information that the FBI took off the dark web. So these people are doing this anyway. It's not the movie. They're just using the movie as an excuse to further spew their pernicious ridiculousness that let's make no mistake, this is not the movie's fault. This is the people's fault that are doing it, period.
All right, and with that said, well said, Robert. With that said, it's time for us to let Robert Meyer Burnett go because he's got a ton of stuff to do today. But Rob, thank you again for being here. It's always a beautiful day in the neighborhood when our existential Mr. Rogers is in here. Rob.
The existential Mr. Rogers. Oh, no.
There's your new
I'm
one.
going to say that's, oh, man, John, you just keep rolling them out for me. The existential Mr. Rogers.
Rob, where can people find you in your tremendous work online?
Well, if anybody does know Sharon Stone, please send her my way at BurnettRM on Twitter, or you can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or you can find me on my own YouTube channel, which I'm going to have to rename. Find me on the Burnettwork or the adjacent website, burnettwork.net.
Rob, always a pleasure having you here, sir. And we'll see you again on, I believe, Friday. We'll see you again in here on Friday.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot, dude. All right. Let's keep on moving, guys. We still got about a half hour to go to keep taking your live questions. So let's keep the party rolling. And we keep things rolling here with Lexi's channel. Oh, Rob, hold on one second. Lexi's channel, sorry, I just saw that the next one started with your name. Rob, a while ago in my top 10, I listed Them. You said you hoped it was the Giant Ant movie, but probably wasn't. That is the movie Saw When Young and Loved. See, what I think of Them, oh, no. I was thinking of They Live.
Well, there's the movie called They Live.
So that's the one. What is that one?
Okay, Them?
Yeah.
The original?
Yeah, what is that one?
Oh my God, the original is one of the greatest 50s science fiction monster movies ever.
Oh, it's the giant ant one.
Yeah, it's about giant ants.
Yeah.
And let me tell you about Them. We talked about sounds that...
Right.
The sounds of the ants on Them was terrifying when I was a little kid. If you haven't seen Them, you owe it to yourself. Do yourself a favor. Watch Them.
All right. Sorry about rubber banding you back in here like that, Rob.
I'm a rubber band man.
Let's keep on going here, guys. Next question up comes to us from either Audrey, who writes, weekly anime recommendation, genre, comedy, cuticle, Tente Inaba. Werewolf detective Inaba can find important clues just by tasting hair. Also, there is a mafia there's a mafia don that is a goat that likes to eat money. That sounds beautiful. It reminds me of Doom Patrol, where there's the one character in Doom Patrol who can see into the mind of somebody if he eats their beard hair. I'm kidding you not. For those of you who haven't seen Doom Patrol, there's a character who, if he finds your beard shavings and can eat some of your beard hair, he can see your memories. It's the weirdest thing, but that sounds like something I get into. A werewolf detective Inaba can find important clues just by tasting hair. Also, there is a mafia don that is a goat that likes to eat money. That sounds so stupendously ridiculous. It completely caught my interest. It absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, either Audrey. I love it. All right, Bullet 1510 writes, my top 10, Miller's Crossing. That one hasn't been listed before. Good on you for that. What We Do in the Shadows. Love that movie. Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Donnie Darko. Some Like It Hot. Another one that's not been mentioned in top 10s yet. Hard Boiled. Pie, Only Lovers Left Alive, Apocalypse Now, my number one, Blue Velvet. That is a great, we were talking about Ryan Gosling a little bit earlier. Wait a second. No, I'm thinking my Blue Valentine. Hold a second. Blue Velvet is the one with Speed Guy. Hold a second. I was thinking there for a second, like My Blue Valentine. That was the one with Ryan Gosling. Blue Velvet, it's the guy from Speed, right? Dennis Hopper. Yes, that's Dennis Hopper and Isabel Rossellini in that one. Really, not only have I not seen that one in a top spot before, Bullet, I think that's the first time I've seen Blue Velvet on a list at all. You got a really good list here of a number of films that haven't been on any of the other ones. And God, how much do I feel like I need to stop anything I'm talking about whenever somebody brings up What We Do in the Shadows. That movie is so freaking brilliant. I know a lot of you guys still haven't seen it. Trust Bullet and trust me. Check it out. You'll totally love it. Pie, Only Lovers Left Alive, Miller's Crossing. That's a good mix of movies up there, Bullet. Well done, sir. Well done. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Next up, The Hero writes, "Hey guys, I was wondering if I can download the show audio anywhere. Would love to contribute somehow rather than ripping the file and converting it." Well, as a matter of fact, The Hero, audio only, there's an audio only podcast available to Patreon supporters. So if you are a Patreon supporter, there is an audio only podcast feed specifically and exclusively for our Patreon supporters. So if you'd like a much easier way of getting an audio only version of the show, you can become a Patreon supporter. Plug, plug, plug. Oh, and speaking of Patreon supporter, plug, plug, plug. Now, every day, not every day, but what we've been doing most days as well is we have a Discord server for our Patreon supporters. And we have like a channel on there where everybody shares funny movie memes. We have a channel for suggestions for the John Campea channel. We have general chat discussions. We have been doing a John Campea Show post-show chat where I jump in and chat with everybody. Gonna let y'all know that is not happening today because we are rolling out some changes. Nothing that's going to affect your experience with it, don't worry, but we're doing some things that I'm excited to announce tomorrow, and I will be announcing it tomorrow about our Discord server for all of our interaction about there. Me and Fact Checker Jonathan had a good meeting yesterday coming out how we were going to structure it all. We're going to be rolling out those changes today, so no post-show chat today, but the post-show chat will be back again tomorrow. Make sure you come back and join us for that. Again, that is going to be available to our Patreon supporters. So anyway, Hero, thank you for asking, and that's how you can get an audio-only feed of the show. Thank you for asking, my friend. All right, Hero also follows up and writes, "Also, I just wanted to ask if you have noticed a shift in the air where movie making is concerned. A lot of invisible concerns with studios are dying. A good example being T2's sequel, Sigh for Joker." I'm not really sure what it is you're asking, Hero. If I noticed a shift in the air where movie making is concerned, I'll just be frank with you, that's far too general of a statement. I mean, that could mean like a million different things. So I mean, there's a shift in the air in filmmaking every year. Every 6 months, there's a shift in the air in filmmaking. As far as being concerns with studios are dying, well, listen, studios being able to stay in business has always been a concern. When you look at some of the studios that were around, not the big major ones, granted, but when you look at a lot of studios that were around 30 years ago, they're not here today anymore. So that's always the thing. In business, staying in business is always an issue, for sure. But, I mean, just yesterday we talked about Paramount. You know, Paramount really needs Gemini Man and Terminator Dark Fate to do well. They really, because they have not had a good couple of years. So, I mean, that's always an issue. So I don't know about anything more like tectonic as far as major shifts in the air, as you would say. But like I said, there's a shift in the air every year. I mean, every year there's changing of the stuff going on. Christopher Bigelow writes, "Hey, John, only essential MCU films to understand. Endgame, to understand Endgame, my list. Avengers, Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, Civil War, Ragnarok, Infinity War. Thoughts?" I honestly don't think Winter Soldier is all that important. Don't get me wrong. Winter Soldier is a brilliant, wonderful, one of the best MCU movies. But as far as an essential to understand Endgame, I wouldn't suggest that it's an essential to understand Endgame. The first Avengers, yes. Guardians of the Galaxy. is an essential one, not just because it introduces all of those characters, but because it really is the MCU movie that lays out, this is what the Infinity Stones are, and this is what the Infinity Stones can do. On that level, it's an important one, I think, going into Infinity War and Endgame. See, I wouldn't even include, to me, Infinity War and Endgame have to be seen as the wrapping up film, so I include those together. And I think Black Panther has to be one of them. Because Black Panther, not only do you get introduced to the character of Black Panther, but Wakanda. And Wakanda clearly becomes a very key important thing in the Infinity War and Endgame, playlist. So, yeah, I don't know that Age of Ultron. I would take out... See, I like your list, but I would take out Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron, and I would replace those with Guardians of the Galaxy and Black Panther. And then I think, for me, at any rate, Christopher, that would be my essential watch list. And again, I would take out Infinity War because to me, Infinity War and Endgame, while they are two completely separate films, they are combined the wrap-up of phase... the wrap-up, if you will, of the Infinity Saga. So I would put that in there. Anyway, just my thoughts. But yeah, man, good list. And it's a good question that comes up a lot. What are the essential films you got to watch in the MCU to lead into those final ones? That's a question that comes up a lot. Well done putting in a lot of thought on that. All right, Willow Yang writes, does the latest Batman casting news give you more faith that the movie is finally going to happen? I won't believe it until they start shooting. No, I am still in a position of I'll believe it when I see it. Again, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Let's be very clear. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not saying the movie's not going to happen. I'm just saying I'm going to believe it when I see it. Because they announced Matt Reeves is directing the Batman movie years ago. And here we are now in 2019, and they still haven't started shooting this thing years later. So I'm just saying, look, it's going to happen. I'm just saying I will finally go, okay, now I feel secure that it's happening once they actually start rolling the cameras. Once they start rolling the cameras, Willow, then I'll be there with you. All right, Who Reacts writes, have you seen Kung Fury craziness on YouTube? Oh yeah, that was a big thing for a while. Kung Fury was, like, everybody was talking about it for a while and all that kind of stuff. And you're right, it's crazy. I didn't like it as much as most people did. Like, everybody was crazy, like, this is the biggest sensation I watched. I'm like, it's cute and it's funny and thumbs up. But I mean, it wasn't world shaking to me like it was for a lot of other people. All right, D308X writes, what are your thoughts on Arrow's spinoff show they just announced with Katie Cassidy and Catherine McNamara, Oliver's daughter? Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure they didn't announce that. What I believe that is, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe one of the trades is reporting this is happening, but I don't believe CW, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think CW has come out and verified that or confirmed it. So, in general, what do I think about it? I don't like the idea. I thought the flash forward stuff was really bad in Arrow last season. And I didn't think last season of Arrow was the worst season of Arrow, by the way. I thought it had some good redeeming stuff. But the flash forward stuff I thought was terrible. And it was terrible on two levels. It was terrible in concept. The flash forwarding, stupid. And then it was terrible in content. It was just bad. It was unwatchable. Their flash forward stuff was just terrible. So if they're actually going to do that, and we don't know for sure I do not believe it's been confirmed, but if they are, I think it's a mistake. But to be fair, I also thought doing Black Lightning was a mistake. Look how that turned out. I love Black Lightning. I thought doing Flash was a mistake. Look how that turned out. I love the Flash. So I think it's a mistake, but they have done things that I thought were mistakes in advance that I ended up really liking. So I'll give it a chance no matter what it is they do. But if you're asking me right now, I don't like the idea. I think it's a bad idea personally. But who knows? I thought that before. Frankie Gouge writes, if you haven't and can squeeze it in, give the Emmy-winning Fleabag a try. It's something different than the norm. Plus, short episodes and seasons. Anne has been binging it and really loving it. And now that it's won all these Emmys and everything like that too, and I've had, like, Chris Carr has been telling me for a while that she really thinks I should that I should check out Fleabag. So you know what? I think I will be giving Fleabag a shot. I think I will be sitting down to watch Fleabag. Frankie Gouge also follows up and writes, PS4, there exists an adapter to use keyboard and mouse, so I've heard on PS4. Horizon Zero Dawn, gameplay is simple, but the story will grab you. One of the best sci-fi tales. Actually, speaking of Dawn, the one that most people have been recommending to me is Until Dawn. I believe that's the name of it that you guys have been recommending. So I believe this weekend I'm going to get Until Dawn. And I'm going to sit down with this damn PS4 Pro controller and I'm going to give that game a shot. And it's going to be the last thing I try. If I don't get into using a console after trying this Until Dawn thing, and this is the game most of you recommended, if I can't get into it after that, I'm just throwing the damn thing away. I'll give it away to somebody, but I mean, I'm getting rid of it. I'm no longer going to try. This is my last shot, Frankie. All right. Christopher Sanchez writes, how much of our own traumas get into reviews? Your kid died in a shooting and you might review Joker differently than you would have not. If not, where's the line? Oh, of course it does. Look, that's the thing about art. This is the point that I've always made. Art is subjective. We all see pieces of art, whether it's art hanging on a wall, art on television, art in music, art in a movie. We all experience a piece of art and it hits us all differently because we are all different. And our personal backgrounds are a part of what makes us different. It's not the only thing that makes us different. It's not even the most important thing that makes us different, but it's one of the elements that makes us different. So absolutely, our individual histories and backgrounds, which are unique to us as individuals, will play a part in how a piece of art hits us and affects us. And it would be ridiculous to say that it shouldn't. Of course it is, because our histories is a part of what makes us us. And art hits all of us in different ways, and that's a part of it. A part of what makes up our character and who we are as individuals is the collection of our historical experiences. It's not the only thing, it's not the most important thing, but it's one of the things. So absolutely, Christopher, not just as a critic, but as a film fan, our personal histories, our personal experiences, the things that each of one of us on an individual level have gone through, experienced, and endured will play a part in how a piece of art strikes us and affects us emotionally. It absolutely is, and it should. That's what art is. Art is an expression and a provocative thing of human experience. It's part of the reason why films are beautiful, wonderful things. And that part of it, Christopher, is not something we should ignore. It's a part of it. And we should embrace that. And it's a part of what makes our individual experiences with a movie so unique. And that is something that to me is not a problem. That to me is something that should be celebrated. Even when it's easy, even when it's hard. I think it's something that should be, it's a very, very good question, Christopher. And I think absolutely it is, and it should be, and we should embrace it. We should recognize it and embrace it. That's just my thought. All right, Jesse writes, this is for all the games out there who may have missed it, or gamers out there who may have missed it, but The Last of Us Part 2 as an official release date, and it's only 5 months away, baby. February 21st, 2020. Can't freaking wait. Yep, and we talked about that right off the beginning of the show here. That's one of the things that we talked about. And absolutely, a lot of people excited. Still 5 months away. And I felt like, seriously, it felt like it was 1991 that they released the first trailer. Doesn't it feel like forever ago? Like, I think when the first trailer for The Last of Us 2 came out, I think Ben Affleck was still Batman. I mean, I might be mistaken about that, but I think Ben Affleck was still Batman when the first trailer for This Is Us 2 came out. And now here we are, and it's still 5 months away. But I thought it looked amazing, and I'm very, very excited for it. All right, Brandon Blake writes, oops, knocking my microphone around. Do you think Netflix has internal data that suggests that marketing isn't valuable for them, they can't afford to market, or they are just bad at it? I think they're just bad at it. Look, and if you can't afford to market, then what that means is you got to be a Bob Iger-like leader and say, okay, then, if we're making 50 movies this year, let's cut that back to 40, and let's use the money from from those 10 movies we would have made to properly market the 40 that we are going to make. We'd be much better off for it if we did. If the issue is they can't afford it, then cut back on some other things because marketing is important. Again, like Rob and I were joking about this yesterday, but it's true. The fact that I know more about this Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston show that's coming up on Apple Plus that isn't even a real thing yet than I do about 90% of the stuff on Netflix says something. The fact that I know more about The Mandalorian on a network that doesn't even exist yet, Disney Plus, than I do about 90% of the stuff that's on Netflix says something. Awareness and marketing matters, and they have to make it a priority. And if that means cutting back on one of the 75 movies they're making this year, most of which are crap, then cut back on those and use the money for promoting the films that are better. Anyway, that's just my thought on that. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, I guess Ezra Miller was just a flash in the pan. Hold on a second. Pun intended, I'm sure. Pun intended, very, very much. All right. KS NASCAR Fantasy sends in a very big super chat. Thank you so much, KS, for supporting the channel on that level, man. We appreciate it around here, dude. All right, my top 10 guilty pleasure movies. Number 10, The Jackal. I like The Jackal. I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. I like that movie. Anyway, number 9, The Eraser, Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. The Final Countdown. Number 7, Entrapment, speaking of Catherine Zeta-Jones. Number 6, Scooby-Doo 2. Number 5, The Villain. Number 4, My Fellow Americans. Number 3, The Adventure of Ford Fairlane. Number 1, Hard Rain. And number 1, Down Periscope. Wait a second, is Down Periscope the one with Frasier? Now I gotta check that out. I think that's the one with Frasier. Hold on a second. Down Periscope, IMDb. I'm pretty sure that's the one with Dr. Frasier Crane, Kelsey Grammer. And it is. That is. Okay. And Lauren Hawley was in that. Rob Schneider, Bruce Dern, William H. Macy. It's like a very bad movie, but it's one of your favorites. And that is the beauty of the subjectivity of film. If you love that film, my friend, then you love that film. Good on you. All right, next one up. And thanks again for sharing your list, man. Next up, by Odin's Beard writes, is it me or do more people wish that Willem Dafoe survived the first John Wick? Would have liked to seen John and Marcus team up. Sure. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing in movies, to have stakes, sometimes you have to have key characters die. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Dafoe's character dying was a powerful moment, I think, in that film. And, I always say this. I mean, you're not alone, because that would have been pretty cool. What you're saying would have been pretty cool. Absolutely. But, one of the things I always say is that the movies are not there to serve the story is not there to serve the characters. The characters are there to serve the story. And I thought him dying in that really did serve the story. I thought it was very effective. And yes, the consequence means that we don't have him anymore. Okay. That is unfortunate. You could have done some cool things, but I wouldn't have sacrificed the narrative impact that had on the first movie at the same time. So it's a give and take, right? I mean, would one thing have been better? Would the other thing have been better? Who knows? But I do like the way they used it in the first film. I liked it a lot, but I'm sure you're not alone in that, Odin's Beard. I'm sure you're not alone. All right. Mike Jones writes, what do you think of a Batman cinematic universe instead of a DCEU, Batman Incorporated as their Avengers? I'll tell you straight up, Mike, I hate the idea. I hate the idea. And here's why. Because in the world where every effing movie that's being made has to have a cinematic universe of some sorts, I am loving the notion of having some truly standalone movies. I miss the days of us having a Christopher Nolan-like Batman series that it's just Batman. Not a cinematic universe. They didn't spin off Christopher Nolan's Batman to having a Scarecrow standalone movie. They didn't spin it off to having a Gordon standalone movie. They didn't spin it off to having an Alfred standalone movie and creating this Christopher Nolan Batman shared cinematic universe experience. No, it was Batman. And he did his 3 films isolated from any sort of cinematic universe stuff. Now, whenever I bring that up, Mike, people saying, so you don't like cinematic universes? Not at all. I love cinematic universes, but I don't think every damn thing has to have a cinematic universe. Why not just make Batman movies. Why not? We've got lots of shared cinematic universe stuff. We've got the DCEU that's still going. We've got the MCU in all of its glory. We've got all that stuff. Why not just make Batman movies? Not do a Batman movie saying, now let's do a standalone of this guy. Now let's do a standalone of this guy. And it all is incorporated in this Batman shared cinematic universe. So I'm not saying it wouldn't work, Mike. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wouldn't necessarily work. But in theory, I don't like the idea. Because why are we so obsessed and addicted that everything's got to be a shared cinematic universe? And if it's not a shared in the shared cinematic universe, make another shared cinematic universe for it to be in. Why not just leave it alone? That's my thought. Go back to those Raimi Spider-Man days when it was just a world with Spider-Man, and that's it. Go back to the Christopher Nolan days where, hey, maybe we make a Batman movie and it's just Batman. I'm kind of more for that. I want to see a couple of these without them either joining existing shared cinematic universes or becoming brand new shared cinematic universes. Just how about Batman movies? And leave it at that. Anyway, that's my thought, but I guarantee you, Mike, you're not alone. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this show right now who just heard your suggestion or going, damn right, do that. I'm sure there are. But to me, I want to see a couple of standalone things. That's my thought at any rate. All right. Jacob Silvers. Thanks for writing that in, Mike. All right. Jacob Silvers writes and sends in a big super chat. Thank you, Jacob, for supporting the channel on that level, dude. We appreciate it around here. Jacob writes, do you think it's possible that scene in Frozen 2 trailer of Anna and Elsa's dad telling the story of the Enchanted Forest could possibly be the opening scene of the movie? I've got a feeling it probably is. Oh, I absolutely believe it is. I don't know that it is for sure. But when we were at D23, they showed us more extended stuff of the kids with not just their dad, but their mom also. And it feels like, again, I've got no insider information here, Jacob, that confirms this one way or the other, but it really does feel like that's the opening. It would fit as the opening of the film. You know, they started the last Frozen with us learning that the girl's parents died in a shipwreck. Okay. It would make sense that if you're going on now, that there's some background piece of information that we need to know for the new story. Start the movie with that background information. Start it with the tale and the story that their father is telling them. Start it with the tale and the story that their mother's telling them, and then move on from there. So while I cannot say for sure, Jacob, that that's the case, because they didn't say that at D23, I can agree with you totally that it absolutely does feel like the beginning, and I think narratively it would make sense. So whether it is or isn't, we'll have to wait and find out, but I think it does. And by the way, I don't care who thinks what. I'm excited for this movie. I think the trailers and the previews have been really good. I'm excited for Frozen 2. So yeah, tough if you don't like that. I'm excited for it. Anyway, Toonie2 writes, did you know that the most successful Star Trek movie made less than the biggest Star Wars flop? Sorry, let me try this again. Did you know that the most successful Star Trek movie made less than the biggest Star Wars flop yet? Solo. I don't know that that's true. Let me look that up. Hold on a second. Star Trek movies box office. I don't know that that's true because I know that... See, Star Trek Beyond, you know what? You might be right. You might be right. Because, yeah, no Star Trek movie. See, I thought for sure that the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie did, but it didn't. The first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie made $385 million. Made $385 million. There we go. There is a Star Trek movie. There is a Star Trek movie that made more than the lowest grossing Star Wars movie, and that is Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness made $467 million worldwide. $467 million worldwide. Whereas Solo, a Star Wars story, made about $400 million worldwide. So there you go, Toonie. One Star Trek movie, the highest grossing ever Star Trek movie, did make more than the lowest grossing ever Star Wars movie. So there you go. There is one. There is one. There you go. All right. Slim Trav writes, what's more likely, Sinister Six or Legion of Doom film. I think they're both bad ideas, but I would say just because they came close once, I think the more likely one is Sinister Six. Although I still don't think they're going to do a Sinister Six, but I think out of the two possibilities, I think that one is more likely. Actor Friend 90 writes, I like that name, Actor Friend 90 writes, I live in Colorado. I heard on the local classic rock station this morning that the Aurora Theater, where the Aurora, you probably meant the Aurora Theater, where the Batman tragedy happened, is not going to be showing Joker. Here's the thing. I don't blame theaters that want to be cautious. I don't blame theaters that want to be cautious. Because, look, everybody's brave when it's not their stuff that's on the line. Everybody talks big when it's not their stuff on the line. When it's somebody else, everybody talks tough. When it's somebody else that actually has to take the risk, and everybody talks tough. But when you're the one who's got to take the risk, I remember back when that James Franco and Seth Rogen movie was coming out about North Korea, right? I can't even remember the name of the movie because it wasn't good. The movie wasn't good. But I remember when that was coming out, and there was this reports that, Korea might attack movie theaters, might organize attacks on movie theaters that show this movie, right? And there were some movie theater chains that were then considering, well, maybe we don't show this movie, right? Now, everybody who had nothing at stake got all gutsy and said, that's cowardly not to show the movie, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's brave when it's not their stuff that's at risk. When it's not their stuff that's at risk, everybody's brave. It's a little bit different when it is their stuff at risk. Then suddenly the liquid courage goes away a little bit. I remember when that whole thing came out about that stuff, and there were threats coming in that they were gonna attack movie theaters when the James Franco Seth Rogen thing came out, and everybody got all mad. Everybody got all mad that theaters are being cowardly. They should play the movie. Okay, and I remember I got into a debate with somebody about that. I got into a debate with somebody who's saying this is cowardly of theaters to not show that movie. They're giving in, blah, blah. I said, okay, let's change let's turn the tables on this a little bit, buddy. I said, you got a kid? Yeah, they had a kid. Okay, great. I don't know if it's a son or daughter. Let's say it's a little girl. Let's say you got a little 10-year-old girl. And let's say a threat got called in on your little girl's school saying tomorrow there was a threat that came in that said something bad was going to be done to your little girl's school. Okay. You sending your little girl to school tomorrow? I bet you're not. Oh, because now you've got something at stake. And to this guy's credit, because normally in debates online, people just dig in their heels and say ridiculous things. To this guy's credit, he went, you know what? You've got a point. As soon as I said, okay, so imagine you got a little girl and she goes to school and there was a threat called into that school tomorrow. Are you sending your little girl to school tomorrow? Or are you going to keep her home tomorrow just to be safe? Because if you keep her home, then you're being a coward. No, it's just that you got something to risk. You got something at stake. And you're a little bit more cautious when you have something at stake. And remember, this was the thing too. People sued the movie theater. Remember when that Batman thing happened? People sued the movie theater. Which, look, I'm not trying to belittle or marginalize at all the pain, grief, and suffering of the families of the victims went through. Not at all. But that wasn't the movie theater's fault. That wasn't the movie theater's fault. But the movie theater got sued. So, what are you going to do if you're a movie theater now and an actual threat gets sent in? Because now if something happens and you didn't do anything about it, You're going to get sued the life out of you. You're going to get put out of business, and something terrible is going to happen on your roof. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the notion of showing a movie or not. I'm not going to take a stand on that one way or the other, because I got no skin in that game. I don't care. But what I'm saying is, I think if an organization like a movie theater or something like that makes a decision, I don't think we should be too quick to judge that decision. I think we should take a breath and think about, try to look at it from their point of view. Again, I'm not saying whether if I was a movie theater owner, if I would show the movie or not show the movie. I'm not saying, I don't think I have an opinion on that yet. But I do know I'm not going to judge a movie theater considering the history that they've had, and they got sued for it even though it wasn't their fault. It's a tough situation, dude. It's a tough situation. It's crazy times we live in. Crazy times. Now, I'm not going to get political. Because I avoid politics here on this show, but it is crazy stuff we live in with, dude. It is crazy stuff that we live in. All right. Let's see here. Marie Seafring writes, little fun fact, I just learned that Samara Weaving from Ready or Not is Hugo Weaving's niece. Another acting dynasty in the making. Love the show. Thank you so much, Marie. And I loved Ready or Not. And Samara Weaving, or as everybody thought she was, Margot Robbie. I mean, seriously, there are still people today that think that Ready or Not movie is a Margot Robbie movie. She looks so much like Margot Robbie, at least in the trailers and in the poster, that everybody just assumed it was Margot Robbie, but it's not. It's her, and niece of Hugo Weaving. I did not know that. That makes me even more happy because I love Hugo Weaving. For those of you who don't know who Hugo Weaving is, he was Agent Smith in The Matrix. He was Lord Elrond in Lord of the Rings. He was Red Skull in the MCU until Infinity War. That wasn't him in Infinity War, though. I just love Hugo Weaving. Anyway, thanks for sharing that, Marie. Murray Reich writes, even Peter Griffith had a longer career. Even Peter Griffith had a longer career with the Patriots than Antonio Brown. That's true. That's true. By the way, the Family Guy episode when Ron Gronkowski moves in next door, one of my favorite episodes. I totally love that one. And I'm so glad, as a Patriots fan, that Antonio Brown is gone. I'm so glad. All right. The Arthur writes, hello, a little off topic, but I was wondering, what kind of mics and audio setup do you use for the show? Just quickly, I'll let you know. My main mic here is a Rode Procaster microphone. So Rode, R-O-D-E, Procaster. That's the main microphone I use. And I use something called the Rode Podcaster. No, that's the microphone. The Rode... damn, I can't remember the name of the thing. A Rode soundboard that I use for my main sound mixing, and then I run that in. So main microphone is a Rode Procaster. That's the name of it. Now, there's another version of the Procaster that's exactly the same, except it's a USB mic, and it's called a Rode Podcaster. Instead of Procaster, it's called Podcaster. And it's exactly the same as this, except it's white. And instead of an XLR connection, it has a USB connection. So, and I used that for a while. When I was just did the show solo, I just had a little USB mic, and it was exact. But it's other than that, it is 100% the exact same microphone. So there's a lot of good stuff out there, but that's the one I use. So there you go. I hope that was helpful, Arthur. All right, Murray Reich writes, one of two. I saw Ad Astra in IMAX, and the visuals were amazing. There were, though, a lot of questionable scenes, like the moon sequence involving pirates, which felt out of place. Totally was out of place. It had nothing to do with Pitt's mission. There were stakes in the film where Pitt had to overcome to fulfill his mission, which was interesting, but once we got to Jones's character, the film disappointed me. Overall, it was okay, 5 out of 10. Yeah, look, it's... Again, for me, the thing about Ad Astra, a movie I was very much looking forward to, it's a movie with high stakes, asks some incredible deep questions, has some incredibly deep themes, but put together in an incredibly dull and boring way that's hard to get through. At least that was my experience with it. Some people love it, and that's great, but I got to tell you, Murray, my experience was pretty much closer to yours. Pretty much closer on the money with yours. I wanted to love it. I wanted to be able to get through it. And it was just painfully done. It's like all the right pieces for the puzzle were there. They just didn't put them together properly. That's how I felt about it at any rate. Who would have thought that out of going to a movie weekend where Downton Abbey, Rambo, and Ad Astra were opening, that the movie I liked most that weekend was going to be Downton Abbey. Go figure. And I did get a kick out of Rambo. I got a kick out of the Rambo movie, but I actually thought Downton was the best movie that played that weekend. Who would have guessed? Anyway, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Maria, because I'm pretty much on the same page with you, buddy. All right, Josiah Barnhart writes, I just rewatched my all-time favorite movie, Inception. Such a good movie. Still my number one, but I know there is flaws in it. What movies do you love that had flaws? Love ya. Plain and simple, Josiah, every movie has flaws. Now, look, there are times when I'll say that there are a couple of movies that have been made that I might say are flawless, but that doesn't mean they do everything perfectly, right? Like, you can do something correctly without doing it perfectly. You can do something and do it well, but it could have been done even better, even though it was done well. You know, so there are movies that I'll say that, you know, this movie was basically a flawless movie. And then somebody would say to me, but John, how can you say it's a flawless movie if you like 5 other movies better than it? Well, just because it doesn't have any standout flaws doesn't mean I think they did everything as well as it could have been done. Like, you can have a comedy that's like, hey, yeah, that was a funny comedy. It could have been funnier. There are other comedies that are funnier, even though as a comedy, it did this job. It was funny. But it could have been funnier. And I think there's a difference to be said there. So for the most part, though, every movie, for the most part, has something they didn't do right or they could have done better. It's just that simple. Does Inception have some of those things? Absolutely. But so does Lord of the Rings. So does Star Wars. So does The Godfather. So does Shawshank Redemption. I mean, no movie is perfect. No movie is perfect. They've all got to be there. And of course, Inception does too. So, but that shouldn't in any way at all make it not your number one favorite movie, right? It absolutely should. It's just that you love it as your number one favorite movie, flaws and all. And that's the important thing. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Josiah. All right. Slim Trav writes, will there be backlash if Pattinson is not in the DCEU? A little. I think a little bit, but I think most film fans are starting to realize, look, the DCEU had to try something different. And they're on a roll right now. They're on a roll. And if Joker is good and successful, then people will be more open to Pattinson. So will there be some? I think there will be some backlash, but honestly, Slim Trav, I don't think a whole hell of a lot. The Insight writes, is network television dead? Little representation at the Emmys? No, it's not dead. Look, the most watched shows are still network shows. They're not shows that are necessarily winning any awards, but like NCIS and stuff. These are shows that so many people freaking watch. It's crazy. So is network television dead? No. A lot of the Emmy stuff is coming out of a non-network television stuff, which is interesting to see. But network is still where the vast majority of the viewership comes from. I'm not saying that's not changing, but that's where we're at right now. Tristan Larson writes, met Danny DeVito at the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia premiere. Life is made. You know what? Danny DeVito, I've met just about everybody that I would want to meet, with the exception of Steven Spielberg. I've never met Spielberg. Met his mother. I was served lunch by his mother, but I've never met Steven Spielberg. But Danny DeVito's another guy I don't think I've ever met. That would be a cool one too. I would like meeting Danny DeVito. That must have been a lot of fun. I'm glad you had a good time, man. Hoser Miaz writes, what are your thoughts in George Lucas's feeling upset and betrayed when he was told that the sequel trilogy wouldn't follow his plots? This is something else that came out of Bob Iger's book, but it's old news. I mean, we were talking about this 3 years ago. I mean, this is old news. Even before The Force Awakens came out, this was stuff that we talked about. This is not a secret. This has been out there for a long time. It's old news. Look, everybody knows that I worship at the altar of George Lucas. Everybody knows this. And nothing will ever change that. That said, this is the guy who made the prequels. So my faith in the universe that George Lucas created will never be shaken. But my faith in him making specific stories to tell waned a lot with the prequels. The prequels are terrible. They're terrible. So I will always be burning incense at the altar of George Lucas. For the rest of my life, I will be burning incense at the altar of George Lucas. Forever and always. But that doesn't mean that, I'm glad they went in a different direction. I loved The Force Awakens, whereas I hated the prequels. So if George didn't like the prequels, I'm not losing any sleep over it. I'm really not. Again, all due respect to my deity, George Lucas, and forever will I burn incense at his altar. All due respect. But I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that the guy who gave us the prequels wasn't happy that they weren't going in the direction he thought they should have gone with the new movies. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And forever and always, I will burn incense at the altar of George Lucas regardless. Anyway, there's that. Josiah Barnhart writes, Ben Platt or Hugh Jackman for Oscar host. Who's Ben Platt? I don't know who Ben Platt is. Anyway, or Hugh Jackman for Oscar hosts, maybe. Oh, look, Hugh Jackman has hosted before. I think there are a lot of guys and people and girls who would make a really good Oscar host. I would like to see them do another Oscar host, but it's not going to be the end of the world if they don't. But Hugh Jackman's done it before. I thought he did a great job. It would be great to see him do it again. Brian Esparza writes, The Last of Us 2 trailer looks fan-frickin-tastic. It absolutely does. I was floored by it. I'm very excited for that. I don't get excited about games very much. I'm excited for that game. J Meister 25 writes, I think the human race has collectively forgotten the definition of cautionary tales. It's okay for us as a species to learn what not to do. Oh, I agree. I completely agree. And that's what Joker is. Now, remember, I'm saying this as somebody who hasn't seen the movie yet. That has not been lost on me. But they have said from the beginning, this movie is a cautionary tale. What happens to individuals, but also for us as a culture. It's a cautionary tale. And again, look, I already explained my whole feelings on that, Jay Meister, but I think you nailed it perfectly, and I think you're absolutely right the way you said that. Bang on the money, Jay Meister. All right, Tristan Thorpe writes, every time I think about Jeffrey Wright being cast as Gordon, it just makes me smile. That is just so perfect. Listen, and I agree. There is no perfect casting to me. Because for everybody, every great person who's cast greatly in a great role, somebody else maybe probably could have done it better. There's always somebody else who could have done it even better. But that said, I said this on the show yesterday. When I first read the headline, Batman movie adds Jeffrey Wright, even before my eyes got to the part saying that he was going to be Commissioner Gordon, I saw Batman, Jeffrey Wright, my head was immediately, it's got to be Gordon. He's got to be Jim Gordon. Oh my God, this dude just exudes everything about Jim Gordon. And so while I'm not saying he was the perfect casting, because there may have been other people who might have been even better, he is a great choice. And I'm very, very excited for it, my friend. Very excited for it. All right, Josh Marion writes, John Campea to play Tony Stark. Breaking news from We Got This Covered. There you go. And again, listen, I always feel bad when I bring that stuff up because, again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying, oh, nobody should read this site or that site. No, I'm not saying those sites aren't really entertaining sites and have great editorials, great features, things like that. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody about anything like that at all. I'm just saying when it comes to the very specific area of scoops, don't send me anything where the scoop originates on sites like that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't read those sites. I'm not saying they're not great at what they do when it comes to the other stuff. Not at all. I'm just saying don't send me stuff where scoops break there because you know my feelings on that. Anyway, but make that John Campea as Iron Man Reborn. Do make that movie if you're watching Bob Iger. Ross Pitt writes, Shark Hunter. John, I think you would look amazing if you grew a big bushy beard. Here's the thing. I can't. I simply can't. Now, you guys know that a number of years, and I probably will again this year, participate in No Shave November for cancer awareness and cancer research. But for those of you who do watch, you guys know that a full month of growth for me, and this is no exaggeration, a full month of growth for me looks like about 5 days of growth for most men. I don't grow a lot of facial hair. I just don't. And I grow spotty facial hair. It's embarrassing. I'll talk. I don't care. It's embarrassing. Forky will point out for you Hi, John. Hello, Forky. So, Forky, do me a favor. Show people where I don't grow hair. Well, John doesn't grow hair here or here. It's true, which makes my facial hair look really stupid because I'll grow hair here and I'll grow hair here and a little bit here, but I don't grow hair here. I won't have any very, very little facial hair will grow here or in this spot right here. Like up here, yes, here, yes, here, yes. And for those of you who remember when I would do No Shave Novembers, you could totally see that. And even the rest of it that grows very, very slowly. I will never be able to have, I lament, that manly looking big bushy beard. I'll never be able to have that. It just, it's not in my DNA. It's not in my DNA. Don't know why. I'm Italian. They figure I'd have tons of body hair growing everywhere. But it's just not the case. Not for me. Anyway, but thanks for the observation, Ross. All right, Tristan Thorpe writes, and thank you for the assistance, Forky. Tristan Thorpe writes, I'm looking at these WB-DC movies as DC movies and not, is this connected to the DCU? They can say they are or not, but I don't care. I'm just happy to see another DC movie. And I'm completely with you on that. Just give me a good movie. I couldn't give two squirts of piss if it's connected in with that or connected in with this and whatever. And if it is, cool. If it's not, whatever. But all I care about is the movie you're showing me a good movie? That's all I care about. You know, we don't sit down and watch The Godfather and go, oh, what? Oh, does this tie in with Goodfellas? Is this, what 17 spin-off movies does this have? What's it like what's the point in having this Godfather movie if it doesn't have a shared cinematic? No, we just sit down and watch The Godfather for The Godfather. And I'm with you, Tristan. When I sit down and watch an MCU movie, DCEU movie, all I expect, just give me a good movie. Give me a good movie and we're all happy. I'll be happy. Just give me a good movie. All right, that's me on that. All right, Fanjecture. Our friends over at Fanjecture write in, fun facts. Only 6 of the top 50 worldwide grossing films are non-sequel / franchise or reboots. Avatar, Titanic, Frozen, Jurassic Park, Zootopia, and Lion King 1994. The truth of the matter is, the general movie-going audience loves revisiting characters they know. Studios know this, so why not continue making them? And you know what, Fanjecture? Not only is that an incredibly astute observation, it ties in perfectly with my whole conversation about shared cinematic universes, right? Like, on the one hand, everybody's like, make original movies. Okay. But then they say Joker's not in the DCU. They go, well, what's the point if it's not a part of a shared cinematic universe? You're absolutely right. Look, the reason why, people will, like for instance, somebody wrote in the other day as we were talking about how Jared Padalecki from Supernatural looks like they're going to reboot Walker, Texas Ranger. And somebody wrote in, and I understand why. Somebody wrote in and said, why do that one? Why not? There are a lot of good books that have never had a movie made. There are a lot of good stories out there that have never made. Why not make a TV show about that stuff instead of Walker, Texas Ranger? To which, number one, I would say, first of all, lots of TV shows get made that are original. But number two is, well, everybody knows the name Walker, Texas Ranger. Like it or not, good or bad, fair or unfair, recognizable names has a lot of power. And you do Walker, Texas Ranger. Look, here's the thing. How much coverage in the news cycle yesterday do you think it would have gotten if just the kid, one of the guys from Supernatural, is going to do a new show on CW? Would have gotten some coverage, I think. But you say, he's going to star in a relaunch and a reboot of Walker, Texas Ranger. It's going to be called Walker. Suddenly now every news outlet is talking about it. Because people, just like Fanjecture is pointing out here, we are attracted to names we recognize, things we know, things we already have an association with. We are attracted to the familiar. And you can debate whether that's good or bad, fair or unfair, whatever. It is what it is. And so while studios do continue to make tons of original stuff that nobody supports, they are also going to, at the same time, do things that are sequels and reboots because there is power in the familiar. It's true. Again, you can debate whether that's right or wrong, fair or unfair. It is a fact. And we're all subject to it. And that's part of the reason why we're all addicted right now to the whole notion and idea of shared cinematic universes. All right. Just got time for a few more here, guys. Then we're going to have to call it a day. We've already gone over 2.5 hours today. Sujith writes, Christopher Nolan makes original blockbusters. No, Christopher Nolan makes original movies. Audiences going out to support them make them blockbusters. Let me be clear about that. Write this down. Highlight it in 7 different colors of highlighters. Christopher Nolan does not make original blockbusters. Christopher Nolan makes originals, and the audience going out to support his films is what makes them blockbusters. Nobody was calling Dunkirk a blockbuster before it made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Nobody was calling, Inception a blockbuster. It was a twisty kind of, psychotropic kind of weird concept, original sort of film. It making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars is what make it a blockbuster. Let's take the nice guys. Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling, directed by Shane Black. If that movie had made $600 million at the box office, we would have said, well, Shane Black made an original blockbuster. But Shane Black just made the movie. Nobody went to go see it, and so we don't call it a blockbuster. Right? To be very, very clear on that. Christopher Nolan made original films. The audience made them blockbusters. We have a whole list of wonderful, fantastic original films here that the audience did not go out and make blockbusters. Now, Christopher Nolan has a name. Christopher Nolan is recognizable. He's the guy who gave us The Dark Knight. People get excited at the sound of a Christopher Nolan film, and they'll go out and support it. But here's the thing. If Fighting With My Family had made $600 million instead of $39 million, it would have been an original blockbuster. But anyway, there you go. But again, going to Fanjexer's point, Christopher Nolan is a recognized, notable name that everybody associates with, so he makes his movies and they'll get more attention than others. I don't know that Dunkirk makes nearly as much money if it wasn't for his name. But Dunkirk, nobody was calling that a blockbuster until it made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyway, Keith Lamoureux writes, movie contacts is interesting stuff. I thought contracts, not contacts. Movie contracts is interesting stuff. I thought movie contracts would work like sports contracts with guarantees and incentives. Well, no, look, every individual contract is unique. And I'm sure there are some actors that okay, I'll sign a 3-film deal, but you guarantee that even if we don't make films 2 and 3, you pay me $800,000 for films 2 and 3, even if we don't make them. I'm sure every contract is unique, but the basic idea, the general principle though, is that you sign a contract to be in a 5-film deal that doesn't require them to make 5 films with you. It just means if they make those films, you got to come back and play the role. If they had decided, like Chris Evans, if he had a 4-film deal for Captain America, if they got through 2 films and thought, you know what, we're going to make a change. And we're going to have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of any name at all whatsoever. We're going to have Matt Damon be Captain America now. Yeah, Chris Evans still has 2 films left on his contract, but only if they want him in that role. If they don't have to use him. So there's some similarities, Keith. And again, remember, there's not a one-size-fit-all contract. It's not like in Hollywood, there's one contract and everybody signs it and everybody doesn't. Every contract is unique. Every contract gets negotiated. There are things, the higher power people will get a few more incentives and things like that. There are incentives built into contracts, sure, back-end deals, getting points on a film, things like that. But generally speaking, the principle is, if you sign a 4-film deal for a cinematic franchise, doesn't automatically means that the studio can only make that if you're in it. You do have to come back and be in it if they want you in it, but they don't have to use you if they don't want to. It's kind of the way that works. Keith Lamoureux, contracts. No problem, dude. I picked up on that. No worries. All right. Mr. J writes, and we're going to wrap things up here with Mr. J, who writes, do you believe that Black Mask in Birds of Prey will actually have a black mask, or has that been confirmed now not to happen? Also love the show. That's an interesting question. I mean, the one thing I'm really fascinated about the Birds of Prey movie is Ewan McGregor. I just love Ewan McGregor. And to see him being the villain in that, I think is profoundly interesting. Will he actually don a black mask? I'm going to say yes. Although, I don't think it's going to be around a lot in the movie. I think we'll see him wear it once or twice. And then we're just going to see Ewan McGregor. But I think they'll have it. Again, I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating here, Mr. J. I think they will have it. They'll allude to it. And then they'll move on. So they'll establish this is why he's called Black Mask. He's wearing a black mask. Blah, blah, blah. But then for the rest of the most of the movie, I think we'll just see Ewan McGregor. Again, I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but that's where I'm kind of guessing from. And Tristan Riera just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you so much, Tristan. And listen, for everybody else who has questions outstanding, Mike Jones, Thunder Knight, Ulysses Huggins, do not worry. We're going to take up all these questions. I'm going to gather them up, and we're going to answer your questions in an upcoming companion video. I'm going to see if I can get around to doing that today. We've got some work to do on the Discord server, but I'm going to try to get that companion video done today. So keep your eyes open for it. The worst case scenario is if I don't have time to do this companion video today, I'll add it in with tomorrow's companion video, but I think I can get around to it today. So keep your eyes open for that. Thank you to all you guys who sent in these questions, not only because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here at the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you for that. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today, for today's installment of the John Campea Show. You know what? Today was a good show. I like today's show. But remember, guys, as we talk about all these big, real issues, remember they're often more complicated than we make them out to be. You can have your opinion, I can have mine. But even when I'm expressing my opinion, I want to be aware that these are complicated issues. They're not simple black and white issues. There's many complicated ones, and we should still have your opinion, but just keep in mind that there could be more complications to our opinion than maybe we're considering. So anyway, that's where I'm on with all that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here today, making us feel so special, and being a part of a film fan community, guys. We thank you so much for that. Don't forget, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Make sure you come on back and join us for that. I got my Star Wars role-playing game tonight. Very excited. And I hope you guys have some wonderful, fun things planned for your evening as well. Once again, keep an eye open for the companion video a little bit later. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me here on the John Campea Show. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.